Heads up.
Okay, which item did you want to talk about? So the warehouse facility? Okay. Same warehouse facility? Correct, okay.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. You know, I took my motorcycle into work this morning. There was fog. It was cool. Actually, I thought of putting a jacket on. Ready? We're all set. Carrie, are you ready? Okay, and away we go. We'll now call the Plan Commission of June 14th, 2020 to order. Roll call, please.
Anna here.
Anna here.
Kaczynski here.
Oric here. David here. Guzikowski here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Before we start, I just want to wish everybody a happy Flag Day. We did have a celebration in the square. We have an interactive flag activity going on. So there's 27 different flag banners throughout Drexeltown Square. You can pull out, you can go to the library, get the information, but you can click on the QR code. It'll take you through an interactive learning tour of 27 different flags that were used throughout the country's history. And you get a little exercise in between. I wouldn't recommend today, it's a little warm, but they'll be up throughout the duration, and we're hoping to spread some education and hopefully summer schools and schools alike in fall come and learn a little bit about the flag history. So happy Flag Day. Moving on, approval of the minutes of May 24th. If everybody would please take a look. And if there's no discussion over errors, omissions, corrections, we do. Greg?
One quick, I think, correction. I believe I was at the meeting. It does have me as calling it to order, then excused at the end.
Catch. Any other discussion, corrections? Okay, if we can get a motion on the minutes as amended.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of May 24th, 2022 as amended.
Guzikowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Commissioner Hanna.
Anna, aye.
Kaczynski, aye.
Oric, aye.
Kevich, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Now we'll get us to item 4, significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following: an ordinance amending the conditions and restrictions in ordinance number 2708 for the plan unit development for Oakview Business Park, and approved the construction of a sand volleyball court at Willow Heights Park at a cost not to exceed $28,000, which was held by the Common Council at the April 19th and May 17th meetings. So this was an approval. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Item 5 is Board of Housing and Zoning Appeal actions. There are currently none. And item 6 is our quarterly Parks and Recreation Commission actions. We will be receiving our next report June 28th, 2022. So that'll get us right to the first and only public hearing, I believe, of the night. And that is a sign appeal for a proposed sign that would allow an applicant to install. I'm not going to go through all the reading of it because it's going to have to go through anyways. But it is for Bubba Jensen Peak Inc. And this is at 140 West Putes Road. And it is proposed building. Carrie.
City of Oak Creek notice of public hearing before the Plan Commission. A public hearing for a sign appeal will be held on June 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Common Council chambers. The appellant is Bubba Jensen of Peak Inc. Tax key is 828-9016000, and the property location is 140 West Pease Road. The request is for variances from section 17.0604 sub A41, which states in part, a maximum of one primary wall sign shall be permitted per lot frontage of a single tenant building. If granted, the variances would allow the applicant to install 3 wall signs with the dimensions of 7 feet 8 inches by 10 feet 7 inches or 81.14 square feet, 1 foot 6 inches by 10 feet 7 inches or 15.88 square feet, and 1 foot 6 inches by 15 foot 4 inches or 23 square feet on the north elevation, and 1 7 foot 8 inch by 10 foot 7 inch or 81.14 square feet wall sign on the east elevation. The zoning of the property is B4 CUP, Business Highway District, Plan Unit Development as well, also a conditional use permit. All interested persons wishing to be heard are invited to be present. Dated this 18th day of May, 2022. Plan Commission, City of Oak Creek, Mayor Dan Bukevich, Chairman. This is a public hearing, and all those who wish to speak on this item, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and address your comments to the Plan Commission. This hearing is now open, and if you would like, Mr. Mayor, I can provide some background information on this item.
Please do.
So this is a sign appeal for several signs on the proposed car wash at 140 West Pease Road. And as mentioned in the notice, there is a code requirement that says you are allowed to have 1 primary wall sign per lot frontage. They have 1 lot frontage. And the maximum allowed is actually 10% of the face of the wall on which the sign is going to be located, or 30 square feet, whichever is larger. And I mention that because there are several signs that the Plan Commission is going to be reviewing tonight, both in part as the sign appeal and as the overall plan, master sign plan for the development. So on the north elevation, they are requesting 3 channel letter signs, and we'll look at those elevations in a moment. And on the east elevation, they are also requesting a logo with channel letters. So this would be on the north elevation. The $5 car wash is a button with channel letters below. The other 2 are simply channel letters. And this is what the north elevation would look like. Now, there is one caveat to this. This is not including all of the proposed signs on the north elevation. It is some of them, actually most of them. The one sign that is missing on here, we did receive an elevation that included a small sign on the canopy that's proposed over the pet wash, which is on the kind of the tower side of the north elevation. But for this particular sign appeal, these are the signs that are included for the request for variances. And on the east elevation as well, again, the $5 button and the channel letters right below. The variance considerations on the screen are what the Plan Commission can base their reviews on. You can look at locations, overall size, appearance, height, number, location in the vicinity of other signs, and any other factors you may deem appropriate, excluding content. Since staff do not make any recommendations on sign appeals, this is a public hearing, and we will turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. As Carrie stated, this is a public hearing. We will make 3 calls for anybody wishing to comment. This will be the first. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach podium. Second call, anybody wishing to speak? Item 7A. Third and final call for the public hearing on 7A. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach the podium, name and address. Okay, we will now close the public hearing and go on to item 9A in new business. And that is consideration of the sign appeal by Bubba Jensen, Peak Inc. that would allow the applicant to install 1 7 foot by 8 inch by 10 foot by 7 inch wall sign, and 1 foot by 6 inch and 10 foot by 7 inch wall sign, and 1 foot by 6 inch and 15 foot by 4 inch wall sign on the north elevations of the proposed building, and 1 7 foot by 8 inch by 10 foot by 7 inch wall sign on the east elevation of the proposed building at 140 West Pease Road. So, with that, Carrie, is there anything to add on top of what you've already stated?
No, just keep in mind that if these signs are not passed by the plan commission, meaning that they aren't granted variances, then the item that has the or the master sign plan review that is later on this agenda, that would be affected and would certainly affect the motion for the plan commission in that item. However, this is an appeal. These are for the east elevation and north elevation only at this time.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. We'll start with the commission. We'll start with Commissioner Christine.
I don't have any question at this moment.
Ashley.
No questions, thank you.
Greg?
I don't have any concerns. The east elevation seems appropriate to get the traffic coming down Putes. And then the additional signs on the north elevation are pointing inwards towards the strip mall. So I don't have concerns.
Chris?
Well, this is my district, and I did not receive any phone calls or emails opposing any of it. And I do agree with Alderman Lorik. It kind of fits in and is some good wayfinding signs, so I would support it.
Okay. Brad?
I don't see any problem. I think they're fine.
Okay. Rossi?
I do have a question for the applicant.
Are you with us tonight? Come on up, please. Name and address we'll need on the mic.
Yeah, Tracy Erickson, 1611 Waterbury Drive, Bourbon, Illinois. Good.
In regards to the size of the signs, usually it's in comparison to the building dimensions. So could you provide what the actual dimensions are for the building?
Which elevation?
All of them?
So the east one is 36 foot wide and ends up being 26 foot high at the peak. Yes. About 26 foot high at the peak. The north and south elevations are 150 foot long by 12 foot high. And now the tower is taller on those north and south elevations. They go to that 26 foot to the peak.
6, okay.
Where the button is going to be on.
And then, with the information that we now have about the dimensions, Carrie, so are the sizes of the signs acceptable for the height of these different areas?
That would be something that the plan commission could consider. I would have to do the calculations right now to determine whether or not they meet the letter of the code, but this is part of the variance request. So staff didn't have any concerns about how they appeared on the elevations. We just need to make sure that when the plans are submitted for permits, that they all match. We have had several iterations that while they're fairly close to one another, they're slightly different. So we need to make sure that we have the dimensions on all of the elevations and the plans, corresponding to each other. And we need to make sure that all of the signs are represented on all of the elevations in order to be considered for permits.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay.
I actually have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So my question is, for the applicant, how is the water runoff from all the swash different cars? It seems like a very large building, so is there any?
There is. So there's a pit that runs down the middle of the tunnel.
Okay,
It's pretty wide, pretty deep, and that's where the water drains into, and then it goes into a triple tank system, and then goes ultimately into the sewer system.
is it the same for the pet wash, especially with the
The
hair?
pet wash is a little bit different. It's treated more like a public bathroom would be. It's putting about the same amount of water as something like that would be, so.
Okay, and during the winter, especially with the icing and snow, do
Right.
you have any of those maintenance plans, or how is this going to be maintained during, is it going to be
So on-
closed or?
Right. So on the exit and the entrance, we do apply salt to make sure that there's nothing slippery there. And then we do the same thing with the parking lot, just as we would with any kind of snow maintenance kind of thing. And the pet washes, the pets walk up a ramp into a tray for lack of a better word, but all the water drains through there just like it would in a tub or something like that. So there's not a lot of water coming out of the pet washes. Shouldn't be any really.
One last question. This is a very beautiful building. So how are you planning to maintain it to ensure it stays in that good condition?
Yeah, we are really fussy about keeping our buildings up because this park is becoming more and more competitive. We want people to come to a clean environment, a building that looks good. And that's why we design our buildings, our car washes to look distinguished. And we think they're the best looking car wash out there, but we're biased.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the questions and the answers, but remember, we do have to stick to the agenda. We're on signs currently, so we'll get a kick at the cat at the other stuff as well. Just these 3 signs currently, so great, thank you, Tracy. I know I myself do not have an issue with the signs. Threw me off a little bit when they said they were putting them to the north. I thought this building sat tighter to the strip mall. But that is really their queuing area and the whole thing, so I do find it appropriate. So I have no issues either, so. If there's no further discussion, motion please on 9A, that would be.
Park moves to approve the sign variance allowing the installation of one 7-foot 8-inch by 10-foot 7-inch logo with channel letters wall sign, one 1-foot 6-inch by 10-foot 7-inch channel letter wall sign, and one 1-foot 6-inch by 15-foot 4-inch channel letter wall sign on the north elevation of the proposed building, and one 7-foot 8-inch, 10-foot 7-inch logo with channel letters wall sign on the east elevation of the proposed building on the property at 140 West Putes Road.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Anna, aye.
Jinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
David Chai.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Jan Blar, aye.
Okay. Next it will get us to old business, and that is 8A, plan review, site, building, landscape, and related plans by Tracy Erickson, Erickson Enterprise LLC for the car wash on the car wash facility on the property of 140 West Putes Road. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Plan commissioners may recall that this was actually reviewed at the May 10th meeting. However, it was held to allow the applicant to kind of respond to some of the questions and concerns that were raised as they were not available at that meeting. So just as a refresher, the current zoning of the property is B4 PUD. It has been issued a CUP as well. The proposal is for a car and pet wash facility. The conditional use permit was approved by the council on March 3rd. The PUD that was approved in 1975 really doesn't apply to this particular location in terms of what the development is. It really had more to do with the surrounding residential development. But there is a declaration of restrictions with the property, and there are existing access easements that will have to be confirmed and provided with copies to the city. On the site, on the screen right now is the proposed site plan for the overall development. Now, the signs that we just discussed, the north elevation of the facility does face inward toward the existing development, that existing strip mall. And the signs that are on the south, or the one sign that's on the south elevation, we haven't discussed yet because that is part of the plan review, and it's part of the plan review because it is the one sign that staff could approve just with respect to meeting code requirements. So again, the entrance is off of Putes Road on the shared access on the southwest, and then it goes through the facility. People would enter into the actual car wash lot through the 3 lanes that would be controlled access through the kiosk system, go through the building for the automatic car wash, and you can park in the middle there to access the vacuums or to enter into the office area and the pet wash facility. There was a change to the elevations based on some of the discussion that happened at the May 10th meeting. However, you may recall that there was concern with regard to mirroring the design of the building as it was shown interior to the development on the north, on the south, so that what was seen from Putes Road also had the same kind of elevation. And that's been incorporated here. So the 2 ends are actually proposed to have a brick facade, And in the middle, that'll be CMU with brick columns that have been added here as outlined in, or kind of clouded in the orange cloud here. Elevations on the west and east really haven't changed from what was reviewed at the May 10th meeting. And really nothing has changed on the north either. The only change, again, you can barely see it, but the canopy on the over the pet wash facility, which is, you're thinking backwards here. It's on the left-hand side of the screen, but it's actually on the east side of the building. That's what we were talking about in the previous item. The letters that are on the canopy will be in the plan, the sign plan review. We did also receive elevations and some information for the combined trash and pump house enclosure, as well as the canopy that's proposed over those kiosks that would kind of control access to the facility, providing people with the opportunity to pay for the specific car wash that they're looking for. So there's no concern at all with the proposed trash and pump house enclosure, with the exception of the gate. The gate is proposed to be smart siding, and we are recommending that they change that to a non-flammable material such as metal, not chain link though. The reason that we're requesting that is because we have had, as mentioned previously, some dumpster enclosure fires with those types of materials, so we're asking for that to be changed to a non-flammable material. The canopy itself is kind of just an aluminum small scale canopy over those kiosks that will, again, control access to the site. The proposed landscaping plan really hasn't changed from what was seen by the Plan Commission on May 10th as well. Some additional lighting information on the left-hand side for the wall lighting. This is what will be on the building sconces, if you will. The emergency lighting are those wall packs that you see. The canopy will be lit with kind of this rounded light that's that was proposed to be white. I believe the canopy itself is proposed to be blue. And then the parking lot lights will be on square poles with this particular fixture. It's similar to what we've seen in the city. Now, before we get into the suggested motion, there were a couple of things that staff did mention in the staff report. We didn't get any colors, and that's unusual for whenever we receive proposals like this. Now, we don't necessarily have any requirements or restrictions when it comes to color, but we don't really get a good representation of what the building is going to look like without those color elevations. And there were no colors that were specified in the black and white elevations. It was all TBD. So we do require that those be submitted in order to determine whether or not everything looks the way that aesthetically the city wants them to look. The other part is staff is recommending that we do not allow the vinyl canopies. We are fully in support of canopies, but we do have some concerns for durability of vinyl. So if we can make those either metal or fabric, that would be appreciated. So there's a suggested motion on the screen for approval with those concerns incorporated into the conditions. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. This time we'll go to the commission. Chauncey, you want to start us off?
Sure. I do have a couple questions for the applicant.
Tracy Erickson, 1611 Waterbury Drive, Bourbon, Illinois. I want, before we got started, just to apologize for not showing up the last time. There was some confusion, and for some reason we didn't get somebody here, and I really apologize for that.
Okay, the question that I have is in regards to the stacking of cars. So what is the maximum amount of cars that can be stacked in that area?
Well, there's 3 lanes, and there's 150 foot of stacking in each lane. Cars are 20 foot long, give or take. So what is that? What's the math work out there? 7 cars per lane, 21.
Okay, and then in regards to the cars that are going through the or preparing for the car wash, if any of the cars they stop working, what is the kind of option for cars to go around?
Well, there-
disabled car?
Yeah, in the plan, there is an escape lane there, so if somebody does, if their car does break down for some reason, we'd probably end up pushing them into the escape lane and getting them through. Once they get to the tunnel, the conveyor would pull them all the way through the tunnel, whether their car was run or not.
And then any feedback on the awnings being metal or fabric?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the fabric. I was wondering, did the concern come from the plans? I didn't know if there was vinyl on the plans.
Yeah, that was the material that was called
Okay.
on the plan.
Typically we put fabric, but we'll change that on the plans.
Okay. And then what is the planned color scheme?
Typically we have red brick and white stone, so you get the accents of both. The drive it on the front and the entrance and the exit is white or an off-white color, and then the roof is blue. I have a picture that we brought with us, if that would help. Could you just give it to me? Oh, there it is, underneath. So this is, it's not a great picture, but it kind of shows.
Sir, we need your comments on the microphone for the minutes.
So anyway, that's our color scheme, and that's what we stick with for all our car washes, unless the municipality requires that we do something different.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Actually do appreciate the Oak Creek blue and white. Nice touch. Is that it, Chauncey? Okay, Fred?
Yeah, what is the cycle time to complete your car wash from the time you enter to the time you get through it?
It takes less than 3 minutes to really get through the wash once you get into the wash. From the kiosk to getting outside the wash typically takes about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
When are you guys looking to try to break ground or open?
As soon as you'll let us.
Good looking building.
Thank you.
Just one question, and I don't really know if this is affected by the plans you submitted. I thought I remember during the conditional use, hearing that it won't be 24 hours. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I did notice that you have door signs that say dog wash 24 hours. I didn't know if that needs to be.
That's a
changed.
mistake.
Okay.
Okay.
Just checking.
Yeah, everything gets shut down at 8:00 at night.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Greg?
Yes.
Ashley?
I just had one question from engineering. In previous meetings, we had provided a comment just suggesting to flip that entrance for the car wash over, kind of flipping it 180 degrees, so it'd be on the west side. And just more or less out of curiosity, why? that was
Yeah,
not.
so what we've got drawn here is what we've done, hundreds of times before, and if you look at the way car washes are set up so that people flow through the best, this is an ideal site, just the way it's set up. We expect most of the traffic is going to come from Howell or from the gas station, and so we think it's going to be coming from the east. It's not really going to be coming off of Putes Road from the west or from the south. And so we really like the way it's set up. We think it's the best way to set up the site. Okay.
Actually, one more comment from engineering as
Okay.
well. So, looking at this site, on the southern side of it, you can see that asphalt section. So on the very far south side, we were recommending to put curb and gutter along the south side of that asphalt road there. Currently, there's buses, whatnot, that kind of park there. Granted, they're not going to be having room to do that, but we just think aesthetically it's going to clean things up a lot. All the water is draining from the north to the south there. Just thinking to capture that water, not looking at adding storm sewer, anything overly
Just the curb.
extensive, just curb with possibly some relief areas.
This is what we're talking about right here, right? Correct. Is that just pavement to grass.
Yeah, Al Jeske, Nielsen, Matson, Barber were the engineers for Peak Car Wash. Okay. Anyways, this area is being reconfigured. We're actually pulling out a bunch of parking stalls on the south side and reshaping the drive lane so it flows from north to south into a more greener area to help with water quality aspects to the site. So if we were to put curb in there, we concentrate that flow and it wouldn't operate as well. So we would rather prefer to go sheet drain across the whole pavement instead of getting funneled into one spot or two.
All right, yeah, I'm just passing on comments from our stormwater engineer that didn't have any issues with any of that and just more of concerns with, condition of that grass and traffic being right next to it. So I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Okay, I have one last question here. Assuming you're doing very good on a good day, sunny day like today,
Okay.
and you have plenty of visitors, have then been studied how many vehicles this can accommodate, and if there is an overflow, do we have any stacking or kind of place for them to stand in instead of encroaching on the
So on a really busy day, are we gonna back out of the drive? I can tell you that, so you don't wanna make promises that you can't keep, right? So if something breaks inside the wash and people stack up, we'll have to open up the escape lane, let people out. But typically, if everything is running the way it's supposed to run, we get by with 2 lanes of stacking, and they can do up to 1,000 cars a day, and not have any problems at all. You won't hardly even notice that 1,000 cars went through there. And that's on good days. That typically happens in the wintertime, on that sunny day when you want to get the salt off your car because it's been 5 days since it snowed. And so those are the days where we'll get typically busy, but the way this is set up, especially with 3 lanes, one of them being an express lane for the members so that it's kind of like Walt Disney World, you can just cut to the front. It flows through really quick. And we've actually had car washes with 2 lanes do as many as 1,800 cars in a day. So we don't anticipate any problems.
That's perfect. How about if an emergency happened inside of the car wash? Do we have any plans how to address that, how to evacuate?
What kind of problems?
Let's say
Like a medical emergency?
not necessarily, like a car broke inside while it was getting washed or something. So
Yeah. So typically, if there is an incident inside the tunnel, somebody, we call it, goes outside our rules and stuff. So they are carrying control, there you go, that's the insurance term. They, well, some people will get on the gas, put it in drive, or do something stupid inside the tunnel. And what we do is we get those people outside, we call the police, we make a report. But typically, once they're on that conveyor, they're gonna go all the way through the tunnel unless they get on their brakes, which is a big no-no too. So, but we've been operating these for a couple decades. I think we've seen everything, but you never want to say that either.
never say never here.
Yeah, right.
So do you have anybody on site that can facilitate those things when it happen, or?
Yes, absolutely. So there's always a manager and a loader. Typically you have 2 or 3 people there all the time.
Okay.
And so there's always somebody to help load onto the conveyor, and then you got a manager in to deal with any problems that might happen and to clean. So.
Perfect, thank you.
Guess I get to go. Assistant Chief Havey, if there's anything from fire, feel free to come on up, with anything. No, you're indicating no. Just a couple quick questions. Are we meeting our green space requirement with this particular development?
There's a requirement for a minimum of 30% of the site to be green, open, landscaped. So with the calculations that we've been presented, it would meet the 30% and it would have to maintain that 30% in perpetuity.
Oak Creek Water Sewer Utility, that agreement for the public infrastructure to extend, that's in place, that's ready to go?
I believe that there is a requirement for a development agreement for the public infrastructure. I am not entirely certain where that sits right now, but it's in progress if it's not already approved.
Any comment on that?
We're just working closely with the engineers to make sure that, I think there's a little bit of tweaking that still needs to go on. Al could answer that question a lot better.
Okay.
Because he's working with it.
Would that be the same with, what agreement am I looking for? The cross-access and parking agreements?
So we have the cross-access agreement. I just need to send it
Okay.
to you. Yep.
Snow removal, anything like that, will all be trucked off site. Currently, they may just plow into that area. I know they mound it in those parking lots. Has that been a consideration with the current owners that you will neighbor?
So I'm sorry, could you?
Snow removal.
Snow removal.
I mean, will you truck it out? Are you planning on pushing it somewhere?
Obviously, our first, option is to get it over the side of the curb and have pile up to a certain point, but if it gets above a certain height, we'll get rid of it. Yes, truck it off.
Other than that, the awning question, you guys are working through that one. And then, of course, trash enclosure door. It's a minor detail, but an important one to us all the same. Sure. So, otherwise, I think that's all I have. Yeah, it'll be a welcome addition. It'll be a really good project. He's excited.
Yeah, he's for it, yep.
So, any other discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, motion?
Clark moves to approve the site and building plans submitted by Tracy Erickson Enterprises LLC for the property at 140 West Putes Road with the following conditions. Number one, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Number two, that the plans are revised to include awnings on the south elevation. All awnings shall be either metal or fabric. Vinyl is not approved. Three, that the plans for the trash enclosure gates are revised to incorporate non-flammable material. Four, that all light sources are shielded and directed downward, that the color temperature of the fixtures are limited to a maximum of 3,500 kelvins, and that light sources are shielded on the side of the fixture adjacent to residential properties. Number five, that all mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground, building, and rooftop shall be screened per code. 6, water and sanitary sewer must be extended to serve the lot per the requirements of the Oak Creek Water and Sewer Utility, and a development agreement for the public infrastructure is required prior to submission of permit applications. 7, that copies of all executed cross-access and shared parking agreements shall be provided to the city prior to the submission of building permit applications. And number 8, that all revised plans, site, building, color elevations, landscaping, etc., are submitted in digital format for review by the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications. Guzekowski, second.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Jinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kevich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Sleeper, aye.
Camblor, aye.
And I.
Okay. Next up, we have 9B. And it is a signed plan review submitted by Tracy Erickson Enterprise LLC for the proposed car wash on the facility at 140 West Putes Road. Carrie.
So sticking with the same property, we are going to be finalizing that master sign plan for the development itself. So we have the 3 wall signs on the north that just received approval for variances, the 1 wall sign on the east that received a variance. There is the 1 wall sign on the south that met code, 1 monument sign that meets code, the awning sign above the pet wash, and then 3 window signs on the north. So we already talked about the wall signs, which are in blue, not going to talk about those again. The 2 awning signs, it's really 1 awning, but it just has 2 sections of copy that are on the face of it, and those say self-serve pet wash, so that's outlined in yellow. Then the pet wash is identified on the 2 windows next to the doors, that's in red. And finally, the office window cling is shown in the green area. Staff had no concerns with those proposed signs. The east elevation that received the variance this evening, and then the 1 sign location on the south elevation matches the sign that is on the east as well as the north. And the monument sign, which is actually located almost interior to the property, it's not located along Putes Road. So this is actually if people are going to be entering the facility, coming from either the existing multi-tenant commercial building or from one of the shared accesses off of Howell, going through the existing gas station that's there. It's on the corner. The proposed monument sign does meet all the requirements in terms of height and dimensions. Just need to make sure that the landscape plan that is submitted prior to permitting does incorporate landscaping around as required, and that the address numbers are incorporated into the monument sign as well. And with that, there is a suggested motion for approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Well, let's go right to it. Christine, you want anything?
No, nothing.
Ashley?
Nothing from me.
Greg?
I have nothing.
Chris?
I have nothing.
Fred?
No comment.
Chauncey?
I do have a question for Carrie. I just wanted to better understand the 4 signs that did not have dimensions.
So the awning signs, we don't have dimensions for, but they're on the face, so they can't be that big. We do allow a maximum allowance in the code for awning signs, and we really don't have much in the way of concern for those. The vinyl, it can't cover more than 25% of the window on which it's going to be placed, including the office and the pet wash. So, you know, we don't really have any concerns with what's being proposed, as long as those are individual letters, or as long as the copy or the opaque covering is no more than what's around the letters themselves. So just a maximum of 25%. They don't need permits for the window clings, but we do need to take a look at those before they move forward with them.
Okay, so based on the feedback Carrie provided, just wanted to follow up with the applicant in regards to those signs and if they meet those requirements.
Tracy Erickson, 1611 Waterbury Drive, Bourbon, Illinois. Yeah, you had a question?
Yes, Carrie was just identifying that they are pretty small signs, however, it should meet a maximum percentage, you said, of 25%?
25% of the window on which those vinyl clings are going to be placed.
So I just wanted to verify if it meets that requirement or the actual size of these signs.
Yeah, they will be. And when we submit the signage to her, we'll include those dimensions.
Okay, thank you.
Fred?
No comment.
Chris? Greg? Ashley? Christine?
Nothing here.
Nothing for me either, so, motion please.
Guzekowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves a sign plan submitted by Tracy Erickson Enterprises LLC for the proposed car wash to be located at 140 West Peach Road.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call. Greg, you want to start us?
Clark, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Hannah, I.
Krasinski, aye.
Okay, it is 9C. It is a review of a request for a conditional use permit for a warehouse and distribution facility in excess of 2,000 square feet on the properties at 6365, 6349, 6377, and 6475 South Howell Avenue. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning of these properties is M1, and we're going to be discussing this in quite a bit of detail tonight. The proposal is for a warehouse and distribution facility in excess of 200,000 square feet. That does require a conditional use permit per code. As proposed, and what was changed from what was included in your packets, the report says that the proposed facility was going to be about 329,000 square feet. That has been increased in the plans that have been provided to you this evening to 359,900 square feet of speculative warehouse facility. That can accommodate up to 3 tenants. There are placeholders for up to 3 office portions of this warehouse facility. In the revised plans, there was also an increase in the employee and visitor parking stalls from what was mentioned in the staff report and included in your packets. There are now proposed 240 stalls. Also increased were the number of loading docks from what was reported in your packets to 66, and an increase in the number of truck and trailer parking stalls to 77. On the screen right now is the proposed revised site plan that again was provided to you this evening. You'll note that there is one access point that is on Howell Avenue, and that is controlled by WSDOT. We have not received comprehensive comments from WSDOT. In fact, we've not received really any comments from WSDOT on the proposal as of this time. Typically, we have at least a little bit of an idea of what WSDOT would require so that we can incorporate some of those into our conditional use permit requirements. We don't have those comments as of yet. There was a letter from MATC regarding continued discussions over whether or not there could be a connection to their access off of College Avenue. We do not have an update as of tonight on that discussion. However, since the site plan before you does not incorporate that, they're not moving forward with that proposal at this time. That does not mean that they couldn't connect at a later date if this were to move forward. So let's just get right into it. There are quite a few concerns that staff have been raising over the revised plans that we've received and discussions that we've had with the applicant. In regards to access, we still do have concerns with truck traffic. It's proposed to be right in and right out. Without WSDOT's comments, without knowing whether or not there would be support for this particular layout, and without a traffic impact analysis, staff have several concerns over moving this forward without knowing what the impacts really will be. This is right across from a median opening, and there is really no way to control whether or not trucks are going to go right out of the facility, even if it is signed. We've seen this in other developments where there have been concerns raised for trucks moving in a flow pattern that is opposite or contrary to what the Plan Commission has either conditioned or what the signs are. So we do have concern over how that would be enforced as a right in, right out, or a right out for trucks going south on Howell Avenue. Continuing with that, southbound traffic, because we don't have this information, may be blocked, either temporarily or maybe even longer. And it would force truck traffic to continue down Howell Avenue in order to make a U-turn if they are not going to illegally, quote unquote, cross over into that median opening to go left to head out to College Avenue. So that's one concern that we have. Another concern has been that wetlands cover a significant portion of this property. Now, this property, as we're talking about as a whole, is actually comprised of 4 properties. And we are aware that the property itself is challenging to develop. There's quite a bit of grade difference right now on the property. The grade changes in some cases more than 10 feet. So significant cuts and fills would have to be required for whatever goes on these properties, be it one warehouse building or any kind of development. But with regard to the wetlands, again, we don't have any input from whether or not DNR would approve of the impacts. And we do have a preliminary wetland delineation. So staff have some concerns because we do have wetland setback requirements. And without knowing exactly whether or not or how much of a wetland fill the DNR would allow, it's a little bit difficult for staff to say whether or not we can support the proposal. Now, we typically see that we get wetland delineations and we get DNR fill permits later on when we get to site plan review. But in this case, because there are so many potential impacts, we are not entirely comfortable with moving forward at this time. Especially considering that we don't know what the setback is going to be either. We haven't received a full delineation report, so we don't know what kind of wetlands these are. There is a requirement for all drainage to be away from wetlands. So, you know, it's a little bit difficult for staff to even make an analysis at this point. We have provided preliminary comments regarding stormwater ponds. And while this updated concept was given to us this week, we still have concerns, or engineering has still raised some concerns with whether or not these stormwater management areas would function properly in conformance with code. That's a question. It's not a statement. In terms of parking, the code requirement does have a minimum and it does have a maximum. So minimum parking for warehouse facilities are 1 for every 1,500 gross square feet. And the maximum allowed would be 20% over the minimum. As proposed, we believe that this is showing more than the 20% that would be allowed. However, since the building was increased in size, we'd have to redo those calculations. If this were to move forward, I just want to remind the Plan Commission that there would be a lot of code requirements that are not being shown, excuse me, in this proposed plan. There would be requirements for landscaping, buffering, setbacks, building design, materials, etc. And that has been spelled out in your reports for you. If this were to move forward, that would also require site plan approval from the Plan Commission. And I want to remind the Commission that your initial review and recommendation of a proposed conditional use permit is not an endorsement of any site architectural, landscaping, or lighting plan that may be required as part of the final conditional use permit. And should the conditional use permit be recommended for Common Council approval, Plan Commission processes required may include but not be limited to a certified survey map to combine the properties into a single site, and of course, site and building plan review. And if this is a multi-tenant building, we would require that it be brought forward for a master sign plan review as well. I want to talk now about the land use plan and the comprehensive plan. Everything that is in blue and with a hatched area is identified to be business park, and that is a flex overlay. The flex overlay does allow for a bit of flexibility as per, the nomenclature, for the Plan Commission to consider a proposal that doesn't meet the exact requirements of the land use category that is identified in the comprehensive plan. However, it's not intended to go to a more intense use. It is more to go with something, a use that is more in line with what the underlying land use category is. So in this case, business park. And over the course of these discussions, staff have continued to raise the concern about a single building being considered for business park identification. So we continue to have that concern, especially considering that what we are looking at is a site that staff does maintain could accommodate more than one building. And if they were smaller, if they were sited properly. So because this doesn't conform to the land use plan in the comprehensive plan, staff have the concern about moving this proposal forward. We've always had the concern about the intensity of the use of the land, about the scale of the proposal, about what would happen to the remaining parcels. You'll note that the plan only incorporates 4 parcels out of the entire area that's identified for business park. So we do have a consolidation plan, but we don't have something that would lead to a cohesive future expansion to incorporate those parcels that are kind of left on their own with this proposal. The parcels along College Avenue, they could assemble, they could be incorporated at a later date, they could be incorporated at this point if something like that were to happen, if the stars were to align. But also concerning are the 6 parcels that are left along Howell Avenue. they cannot form a business park on their own, so they would have no choice but to at some point be absorbed into this business park layout. And we still have concerns that since we don't have WISDOT comments on this proposal, that we don't know how those parcels would be looked upon for future development in terms of access to Howell Avenue. We suspect that there would be a requirement for a consolidated access point. So we contend that it would make developmental sense to incorporate the parcels. However, we recognize that this may not be feasible at this time. What we do have concerns about is allowing for future incorporation into the business park, and that just doesn't seem to, that question doesn't seem to have been answered to staff satisfaction with the proposed layout. We have been provided some precedent images and some conceptual renderings for what the proposal would be in terms of the building should this move forward. However, we do still have code requirements that we need to meet with these proposals. So the conceptual design has not been presented other than what you see on the screen right here. Code does require certain building material percentages to be incorporated. It does not allow for a flat roof appearance, so we do need some kind of height variations. We do need recesses and projections for walls that are in excess of 100 feet in length. So there are still some requirements that would be applicable should this move forward, and we would like to continue to work with the applicant to meet those requirements should the Plan Commission recommend approval of this conditional use permit. On the screen right now is a conceptual rendering of what that proposed entry on Howell Avenue would look like. Without getting into details, because this is just a conceptual rendering, there would be significant changes that would have to be required for this. In addition to whatever WISDOT would require, the monument sign would need to be set back probably quite a bit of distance than what's shown in this location. It's shown in the median, but we want to make sure that we leave enough site distance for people moving in and out of the site. There would be buffering requirements, landscaping requirements. We need to be mindful of the fact that even though these are properties that may be zoned similarly, they are being used for residential purposes at this time. We also need to take into account that we need to allow for these future redevelopment opportunities with these parcels that are identified for business park as well. So with those concerns in mind, we have stated in the staff report that staff have just too many concerns and questions at this time that we cannot recommend approval by the Plan Commission. However, if the Plan Commission determines that they are comfortable with moving this conditional use permit forward and that we can incorporate conditions and restrictions that would satisfy some of these concerns, there is an option for the Plan Commission to recommend council approval on the screen. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Does the applicant, before we start, I have quite a bit of residential interest in this and I'm not allowed to speak, but if the applicant would like to come up for a bit, you're welcome to come up. We will need name and address.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jack Raven. I live at 2707 North Wilton Avenue in Lincoln Park in Chicago. I would like to add, I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. I bleed Packer green gold, just like everyone else here. So please bear with me. I believe I had hold it up here. Thank you. So I do appreciate everyone on the commission taking the time to allow me to speak today and to the public as well. This project has been about 6 months in the making. We're at right now, going through extensive due diligence work as was brought up. This site is very tricky. In order to develop it, there is a handful of physical obstacles to overcome. I do like to hope that this presentation I'm about to give will help clear up some of the misconceptions and potential misunderstandings to the project to hopefully give everyone a more holistic understanding of what we're trying to do, and at the current stage where we're at, hopefully move us to the next stage so we can kind of provide more in-depth answers and engineering to the plan itself. So I want to give you a quick overview of kind of who we are as Kroll Holdings. So we're part of a 70-year family development legacy, based out of Dallas originally. We've currently grown to be one of the largest and most active development companies in the country. We're currently broken up between an investment management arm that kind of deals with buying and selling existing properties, and a development branch that does ground up development. That's where I'm with. We do multifamily office, and my office specifically does industrial development. So if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So the industrial branch, so we're active in the top 15 industrial markets in the country. We're doing roughly 15 new starts a year across those markets with a project value about $2 billion. So this is what we do every day. We identify sites and locations that are prime for the picking, and we like to work with the communities to figure out how to best make an advantageous project for everyone involved. So this is just a map kind of showing where we're located across the country. Some of these are multifamily locations, but predominantly just kind of give an idea of where we're spread across. And then you can skip this slide. All right, so the Midwest office, we started in 2018. We've done about 3 million square feet of spec development since then, one of the more active parties in the Illinois market, or the greater Chicago market. We got another 300 acres under control, and a large group of capital partners eager to participate with us to help improve communities and participate in these projects. So we've done a kind of a wide array of projects here. We did, the first one there was a 250,000 square foot deal down in the Joliet area. Not too dissimilar to what we're proposing here. This one right here is a single building in O'Hare. This is an infill deal. Again, a little different, a little more unique. Got to work with the site layout to maximize the value of the building. We also have done full-blown parks. So this was a farm field development in Elgin, 3 buildings. This involved annexation, a bunch of easement work, so on and so forth. And then this next one here was our kind of our crown jewel we did in Joliet, 1.1 million square feet. There was a lot of wetland issues on this one as well, a lot as far as also soil stabilization problems and infrastructure work that we worked with the community to complete. Ended up being a huge win for both us and the community as a whole. So very proud of that one. So moving on here, I want to talk kind of about the real estate market as a whole, just briefly. The reason why we're coming to Milwaukee, this is our first foray into Milwaukee County. Traditionally, Chicago developers have focused in southeast Wisconsin, being Racine and Kenosha. There's large land tracts there. That's why we put the big box, the room for those massive buildings, the Amazon building, for example, that's down there. And it's been easier to explain to capital, like, yeah, this is part of Chicago. We recognize that, you know, over the past 2 years or so, industrial has really boomed throughout the country, and Milwaukee County rather, is not immune to that. The vacancy rate right now for Class A industrial product in Milwaukee is 1.64%. That's shockingly low, and a huge indicator that there is a need for this type of product in the area. The demand's also been very strong. The metrics support that. Of the 1.7 million square feet of spec product delivered in the metro Milwaukee area, which includes Oak Creek, only about 135,000 remains of that. And our brokers tell us that that's about to get leased up quite soon. So there's going to be no product available. So why do they have this low supply? There's land constraints. This is an infill market. The prime locations are usually built up already. And there's a lot of old obsolete product that a lot of landowners are operating. They don't want to sell because they have current tenants. They're maximizing. They think they're maximizing their value right now, and it doesn't make sense for them to redevelop. So the other thing I want to highlight is 2 things. The chart there, I think, is a good graphic that shows the breakdown of what the metro Milwaukee area looks like from an industrial point of view. So there's a pretty healthy 115 million square feet of product. Only 6.5% of that is Class A. That is not the norm for any major metropolitan area, and further strengthens why there's a strong need for this type of product. And finally, per the Mitchell Airport, which I know is directly on the border with Oak Creek, their currently published master plan envisions an expansion of their air cargo capabilities. If that were to happen, there is a really stark contrast in the need, and there really is not enough, rather, warehouses around to support any expansion. You look at any major metro airport, whether it be O'Hare, or you go even smaller, look at the Columbus area, for example. There's a large amount of rooftops of Class A industrial product to support that growth, which again brings jobs and money into the surrounding economies. So, location. The reason why we picked this site here, beyond the fact that, as I mentioned, a lot of the sites are picked over, whether it be a current product or what have you. The access here is quite stellar. We have access to 2 full I-94 interchanges and a connection to Howell Avenue, which, as you guys all know, is a very major arterial road. If you go down Howell, you'll notice that on the shoulder, it is striped off right now. That is done for future expansion. That's what WSDOT, that's how they design those things. And the median cut, which we are fully aligned with coming into the site, is exceptionally long too as well from a turning perspective. So it was designed for that length where eventually WSDOT has envisioned something turning into across that median cut. So we've identified a few of those items, and also the access to the existing and potential future cargo areas of the airport doesn't get much better than the site itself. I know there's concerns about the right in, right out, and also with our coordination with WSDOT. We have been in communication with WSDOT, and I believe I thought I shared this with the staff and with the community, and apologies if that was lost in the shuffle. I know I've been peppering Carrie with emails, so I appreciate you bearing with me. WSDOT has no major comments on this. They did highlight that they would like to explore this further, likely with a traffic study. We fully agree that a traffic study is warranted here. Do not debate that. The reason why one has not been done to date is they are exceptionally expensive. They're about like 30 grand or so for a full-blown traffic study. And what we wanted to do was get this preliminary comments, as much feedback as we could now, and also come to Plan Commission before we take that next step. We do the preliminary engineering to get further information on stormwater. We do the additional traffic study to get more information on the traffic situation. But again, WSDOT had no major comments on this. They were just talking about kind of similar things that we're talking about right now, about that access and how to contain it. We have worked on projects before with a right in, right out type system. We can align the drive to force trucks to move right. But again, just like anyone driving down the road, there's nothing, the only deterrent to stop people, bad actors, from making a bad decision is, again, police enforcement. We would encourage that. And once someone gets ticketed once or twice, these truckers do not like that. That comes right out of their paycheck. They're trying to find the most efficient pathway to go where they are going. In this case, it's a right down Rawson and up. There's no real reason for anyone to take a left turn to go north. Even if they're utilizing the cargo facilities, the type of market Milwaukee is, they're not shipping goods out via the cargo. It's coming in and being dispersed to the broader public and to the north suburbs of Illinois. That'd be the purpose of this warehouse. So hopefully that covers at least some of the concerns from an access perspective. All right, zoning, we touched on this already, so I don't need to belabor the point, so we can move to the next one. So comprehensive plan. So I do want to hit on this because I do think it is important. We understand the staff's concerns with what we are proposing. That said, I do obviously have a differing opinion on this topic. So we do realize that the current land use shows this as a business park with a flex overlay. There's no debating that. This specific overlay, though, was called out. So it's the College Avenue Flex Overlay District. And again, this is straight from the comprehensive plan drafted in March of 2020. All right. So what they called for beyond business park uses was any use that promotes economic development, such as industrial or the expansion of MATC. That section in the comp plan goes further, all right, to say the existing uses in this region do not take advantage of the area's location to Mitchell Airport, I-94 interchanges, or MATC's campus. So these are the reasons why we are here. We've identified all these different items. We've looked at the comp plan. We spent the money to explore the site and realize it's feasible. And that's why we come down here. That's the comp plan is a city's, advertisement to the broader public of what they want. I do want to highlight that MATC has been engaged. There was that letter that Carrie had mentioned. I have been talking extensively with the director of that campus. Who's a very, very, very nice guy, responds incredibly fast for someone in his position. We've been talking about crossover educational opportunities. They do have a trucking and a logistics program, so you can see the really clear-cut synergies there. He's pretty excited about that potential. And that's where we're at there. We do not want to connect to that road. That road on that side of the project, that is a private road. It is not rated for trucks necessarily. And we don't want to impact a neighbor if we do not have to. So I want to dive a little deeper in the comp plan. We did our civil did more of a deep dive into the comp plan itself. So I want to show further alignment with the city's goals. So the first chunk of the comp plan talks about community context. It highlights, as everyone in this room is likely aware, that logistics and warehousing is one of the backbones of the Oak Creek economy. We're trying to lean into that same vein in a region where, you know, it makes a lot of sense being that close to the airport and by two major roads, you know, College and Howell Avenue. From an economic framework point of view, this is a big section in the comp plan. One of the goals, the fifth goal, was to improve the appearance and stormwater management function of commercial, industrial, multifamily developments in the city. So this project will be a Class A investment grade product. You know, we do not build inferior product. Our capital partners and tenants demand it. So all the stormwater will be fully engineered and contained to the site. Again, once we get comfortable enough to move forward, we will release preliminary engineering that will show that. The site plan, as you see it right now, there is plenty of room to put stormwater across the site plan. We are not concerned about that at all. If we were, we would not be at this stage. I promise you that. So moving on there a little bit, the comp plan talks about private investment, requiring that, you know, this is going to be a $30+ million project. It'll be entirely privately funded. We're not requesting any TIF or abatement at this time. The tax benefit, we're looking at 10 times the current level. So at a minimum, a $300,000 increase over the existing taxes that are paid. It'll likely be more than that. I'm not 100% sure how they're calculated. I just did that based off of similar products in the area. And from a job point of view, we're looking anywhere from 75 to 350 or more jobs. It really depends on the user. That kind of comes into play here. And then finally, from a traffic point of view, we did examine some of the traffic plans in the comp plan. We align with all those, and we're going to go a step further. We want to connect the sidewalk that's currently on Howell with our project, and we're open to, you know, adding additional bus stop if need be to really encourage public transportation and tie in with the broader community. So city code, so I know we touched on this as well. At this early stage, there's only so much that I can tell you that we're doing because there's only so much I can show you without going through the entire engineering process. So as it currently stands, our lot coverage, we're around 40 to 45% right now. Code is 70%. So we're well below the maximum lot coverage for this area, and I'll explain why in a little bit. From a setback point of view, code says you need to be 100 feet from residential lot lines. We are double or triple that in most cases, and that's from the lot line itself. The homes themselves, these are very deep lots. So the homes themselves are additional 50 to 100 feet from the lot line. So it kind of adds to that. Parking will be to code, and it currently is. The turning movements have been measured, and we know that passengers, truck, and emergency vehicles will all be able to move fluidly throughout the site. And then stormwater and landscaping I've touched on already. So to get into the site itself here, there's two huge constraints that Carrie has brought up. These affect any development that were to go here. The first is wetlands. It's not preliminary, this is the final delineation map. I did send over the delineation report last week. It's pretty beefy, so I'm sure no one got a chance to review that yet. You guys are extremely busy. There's about 3.5 to 4 acres of wetland on the site, depending on which way you look at it. You can ignore the lot line there. I don't know what our delineator was thinking. As it stands, we've had extensive conversations with the DNR. They were actually the first people that we talked to because we knew wetlands were going to be of concern here. We are keeping our wetland impact to under an acre. There's a handful of reasons for that. Chief of which is the DNR. WDNR is very strict in this state. They will not allow us essentially to impact over an acre. It's just not something that they're going to allow. So we're working through that process right now. We're into the Army Corps for a jurisdictional determination to see if any of these the federal government will take jurisdiction on. Once we progress past that, we can go to the DNR and get final permitting for this. It's just not something we're able to do right now. We would have loved to have done it earlier on, but it was not growing season, and therefore a formal delineation could not have been completed. I do want to highlight a few constraining factors to this site. There is the wetland on the northern boundary that everyone can see there. It's a pretty extensive, long wetland. What that's doing is it's further isolating our site from the rest of the area, and shoving our site further south, creating an even bigger buffer area that will not be touched. So I'll show that a little more on the site plan. The other key wetland is the one in the southeast corner. That one is potentially jurisdictional. From the wetland, it could connect to another series of waterways running south and east. What that wetland is doing, because we cannot touch that and we are not planning on touching that, is it's preventing the secondary access to Howell. Now, again, this will impact any development on this site. And it's just something that we've had to work with. We had to pinch and pull our site plan. We've done about, I'd say 10 to 15 iterations of our site plan. Some are major overhauls, some are tweaks. We've got to a point right now where this is where it has to be. We've done multiple budget reviews as well, about 4 different full-blown rebudgetings of the site as well. This is kind of where the site plan where it has to be. So next slide, please. The other huge constraint that Carrie mentioned is the topography. So this is the topographic survey for the site. Each line there is 1 foot of grade change. So it's about 30 feet, as Carrie mentioned, variation throughout the site. Now, unfortunately, this is not just a slope straight down. There is kind of peaks and valleys as you go throughout the site. So that makes construction exceedingly difficult, especially when you start to try to build more than one building. These buildings sit on a slab on grade. You need to build up your slab to put, build up your pad rather to put a grade on it. Excuse me, been a long day. To put your building on it. The more pads you have, the more difficult it is to move the mass earthwork activities. So next slide, please. So the results, I kind of touched on this. The wetlands, they do prevent any tie-in to those homes along College, unless the city wants us to blow through those, in which case we can have further discussion of those. But there's some mixed signals involved there with, if we want to tie in, what's more important, preserving the wetlands or tying into the homes along College for any potential future development that may happen or may not. The fact is there's 25 homes along College right now. People are living in them. We're trying to respect them with our design by being as far south as possible and pushing the site away. To have any future tie in there, we think is a bit counterintuitive. So that's why we don't have that right now. There is an opportunity on the northeast part of our plan to connect our access drive north. I can point that out shortly. And you also notice that the building orientation is a bit constrained as well. You see that in a second. Topography, I mentioned this already with the cut fill exercise. It is quite difficult. Multiple building pads is not possible. Again, we've done multiple iterations of our budget. We've done multiple iterations of our site plans. It's not feasible. And I don't want to go through the process with you guys, and I don't want to waste your time with a plan that we don't think we can build and get financed. So that's why we're at our 1 building plan. We have done a maxed out plan. We tried it. It's 2 buildings. It'd be about 150,000 more square feet. That would require wiping out all of the wetlands on the site. It would be beneficial to us because it's much more rent and it helps justify the project more. But that said, it's physically not possible and it's not necessary. So we are not going with that plan. I do want to highlight traffic impact. So I mentioned we got feedback from WSDOT. We were able to also get baseline data for Howell. The two-way traffic count on this section of Howell is 19,000 trips per day. That's all vehicles. A trip is one direction. All right. So there's traffic standards for speculative buildings that are held out throughout the traffic engineering world. A building of this size in a warehouse use, which it will be, generates about 560 trips per day. That's cars and trucks. The vast majority of those trips are always cars from employee and shift movements. You keep this in mind too, like each employee makes at least 2 trip movements a day coming and going. So you can see how that adds up pretty quickly when you have that many car parking stalls at the facility. This represents roughly a 3% marginal increase to the existing traffic flow of Howell. Just goes to show even further how this is a major arterial road. It is designed to have more traffic on it. That's what it was built for. And when you see the hashed off shoulders, WSDOT had that in mind as they built it. They didn't build it just for what the current use was. They built it for potential future uses. Next slide, please. So here's the site plan as Carrie designed, as Carrie described. You can see how our site is pushed south, that huge strip and buffer.
Comments are getting onto the mic.
Oh, excuse me. The whole strip to the north there, That's that long wetland. You can see, it's kind of hard to see on this plan. I'm happy to provide one that highlights the wetlands we are preserving and setbacks or retaining walls to ensure we do not disturb certain wetlands. That retaining walls on that southeast corner. You can see also the chamfered edge there as well on the southeast corner of the building. We're trying to pinch and pull here. We're kind of two pulling factors. We need to make the building big enough to justify the returns. There are cost premiums associated with this site that would apply to anybody. The only type of use, the highest and best use that can work through those constraints is industrial, given the demand for that type of product. The rents can be high enough to justify this type of use. So we have that boulevard entry that Carrie mentioned. We have, because of that single access road, we have an access down into the site itself, to the truck court. What that does, it acts as a truck queuing lane. Now, a lot of communities are requiring this these days. It's kind of naturally happened. It's about 500 feet. What it does is, on the off chance multiple trucks were to come or try to leave at the same time, there is no need for them to be lined up in either Howell or trying to cross Howell, whatever they're trying to do. Everything is contained to the site itself. The tenants like it as well. They don't want, and the truckers as well, they don't want to be idling in the streets. No one likes that at all. Beyond it being illegal, it's not environmentally, conscious. It's not great for their bottom line either, because they're just burning gas doing that. So that's that nice that nice truck queuing lane. And then into the truck court itself, we have the trailer stalls, which is one of the conditional uses. Those serve two main functions, and tenants have been clamoring for them. One is from an efficiency point of view. If a truck does come and a dock is not ready, they are able to drop their load off in one of the trailer stalls and leave. They don't need to wait off-site or on-site for the dock to be ready for them to drop their goods off. The other item is, in this new day and age of logistics, a lot of tenants are owning their own trailers. As opposed to storing them off-site at a third party, they are preferring, as you'd imagine, to keep them on site with them, keep their product close to them. They're usually empty and they kind of just sit there. So the trailers on site are strictly and purely for the use as an accessory use to the tenants themselves. As Carrie mentioned, I've outlined roughly where some offices could look like spread across the building. Probably 2 to 3 tenants we're looking at. The tenant size in the market is roughly, traditionally around 100,000 square feet. That said, that's also only been the type of product that's been built. So we're kind of looking at probably 2 to 3 tenants here. And then finally, again, I want to highlight that the access drive, the southern one, is not possible due to that wetland that we are trying to avoid. And then the car parking, we are actually right at the minimum right now, based on the math. 240 is the one per, 5,000 square feet. And then, around the site itself, we have the landscaping that is per the landscaping code, and we utilize berming when possible. We'll have a lot of topsoil on the site. The idea is to berm all the way around. The site plan is not final. We are going to have extra topsoil. The plan is to berm along all residential areas as well and plant on top. That both deadens any potential noise and also beautifies the area as a whole. As you know, currently right now, it is very overgrown and unkept. The last thing I want to highlight is the orientation of the building. All trucking and shipping and receiving activities are faced south. So very far away from all the homes along College. That will mitigate any really noise externalities from it. The whole building's buffering it, plus, the 300 feet to lot line and a berm. The homes to the right on Howell, again, shielded by the building itself. And we do plan on putting an extra berm there as well. The final thing here is where the site is shaped topography-wise, the homes on Howell actually sit lower. So if you put a berm there, it's naturally even higher, which will further shield the noise itself. The same thing goes for the College. We're actually lower than the College. So when you berm up, they're not going to hear anything from our project itself. So that's the benefit to the topography on the site. That's what we're working with right now. So one more slide. Actually, a couple more slides. This is again, the boulevard entry. Again, we're at a preliminary stage right now. We wanted to give you guys something, and we spent the money. The renderings are not cheap. We wanted to show everyone what this could potentially look like. The idea for this rendering was not to be 100% to code. We know there's going to be some other ideas that we have to work with based off this rendering. But we wanted to show what this could look like, because currently right now, if you guys drive by this, it's hard to image something like this, imagine something like this, given the current state of this entrance. The current owner doesn't live there. Some of the homes are possibly rented, sometimes not. It's overgrown in this area. So it allows for a more beautified entry and cohesion to the community as a whole. So the next few things are just some quick examples. I can blow through these. So this one is our traditional office features. We've done this at every single product that we've done. You see the large amount of glass that is used. You see the fenestrations and details in the panel themselves. We got, architectural sconce lighting, so on and so forth. So that's standard. That is our standard office corner. This shows our project at night. Again, we try to make this as beautiful as possible. Unfortunately, we cannot put a pond on this site due to FAA regulations, but you can see the wall pack lighting, in-site lighting, excuse me. This is LED lights. They're energy efficient. They angle light downward. It's not the old yellow halogen lights. The benefit of this is it keeps all light pollution to the site itself. Nothing emits. A photometric plan will confirm that. The foot candle level at the boundary will be near zero or zero at the site. And then finally, this is a bird's eye view of one of our projects. You get to see the office features on that side of the building. You get to see as well kind of the paint scheme that we typically use, as well as the plantings. Now keep in mind, this was a brand new delivered project. So all the planting detail will all mature and grow and look quite beautiful as this goes on. And that was one of the main requirements for this project in Bolingbrook. They really wanted to make sure that this was a beautiful kind of entryway, and the same thing we'd be doing here in this project. So with that, I appreciate all you bearing with me. I know that was a lot of words. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have my contractor and civil engineer here that can answer the cut fill and other technical questions a bit better than I. So feel free to ask away. Thank you for your time.
Great, thanks very much. Before we go to council, although it's not a public hearing, I will allow the public to speak. So I'll invite Keen. You want to come up first? I got yours on top. We need name and address.
Keen Keyhole, 513 West College Avenue. Big concerns, truck traffic. We're dealing with Carvana, Enterprise, semi-trucks coming and going, hooking up, chains, clanging. Buildings do not suppress noise, nor do berms when it comes to semi-trucks. Garbage, another problem. Existing with Enterprise, Carvana, I can just see again
But
magnified.
Stick to this one.
Well, this project's a lot bigger than what they have got going on there. Big concerns because the trucks make a lot of noise, just going down the road and hooking up. So that's what I'm worried about.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Jean? Come on up, ma'am. Oh, you don't wish to speak. I'm sorry. I can read it into record for you. This is from Jean Summers, 187 West College Avenue. She has 2 points here. Even with the farmland, there's runoff that forms a stream between my lot, which would be 187 West College Avenue, and the lot to the west. What will happen to the runoff when it is paved over? Also, question 2, what will come between this residential neighborhood with children, pets, and a semi-parking lot? So we'll address that. Tim, you did not indicate if you want, would you like to come up, sir? Name and address.
Tim Zubek, 333 West College Avenue. Concern is that the development has stormwater retention ponds that, the new one shows that they've moved, but there are no less than 15 private wells across all those homes. And if you look up Wisconsin state statute, it states you need a minimum of 400 feet from any stormwater retention pond to the nearest well. And it looks like if that's the case, the entire north side of the development is not able to support a stormwater retention pond.
And thank you, Tim. And you did document it in your comment, which we'll be giving over to planning as well. Thank you. Tracy?
Hello, Tracy Vetter, 221 West College Avenue. I have 4 points on my list. I bullet pointed them instead of writing too many sentences.
Fine.
I'm gonna jump down to the second bullet point of traffic, truck traffic and noise. Not only did my neighbor mention some, I'll mention a few more. METC has a truck trading program, which is constantly looping. Basically would be using College and Rawson, just like this proposal. We also have USPS that has their new processing plant down College Avenue, which has brought a lot more truck traffic down our residential area. College Avenue not being, there's residents on Milwaukee side too, who I'm not here to speak for, but we also have UPS that is off of 6th and Rawson, so they're using Rawson. That's a lot of trucking. And at night, I attest to what my neighbor said. Truck noise and trucks backing into docks is loud. And at night, it makes your dogs bark. And we can hear it all the way from UPS on off of 6th and Rawson. So this is right in my backyard. I also have the well water contamination concern, being that my well is actually out of all of the properties along College, my well is the furthest back and closest to this development, about 40 feet off of my property line. And I also have one of the largest parcels, but we're set the furthest back. As far as the berms being suggested in the drawing, what isn't taken into consideration here, and you wouldn't know it unless you would have came on foot to my property is raised about 8 feet above all my neighbors. So at the back of my property line, I'm on a brim that goes straight down a good 6 to 8 feet, and they want to put a berm that's going to be 5 feet high up against that. That makes no sense to me. And then the wetlands and the wildlife. There's a lot of wildlife back there. There's deer, there's coyote, there's raccoons, squirrels, birds, ducks. Yeah, it's overgrown. It's taken over by buckthorn trees. It creeps onto our property. We all have to deal with it because whoever's owned the land all this time hasn't done anything. But we've gone back there, cleaned it up when there's junk. We do our best to have the wildlife use that space and the wetlands. So that's the end of my comments.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak?
My name is Christopher Giuseppe, 143 West College Avenue. Where can I start? I want to start by bowing my head for Ahmad, the 11-year-old child who just died drowned in the KK River. One river that's channeled all over with concrete, so that if you step down, slip down, and then you're in. The uncle and the father are dead too. All right. It was in the 70s or 80s that I was helping to stop such a trucking company from getting Cudahy's Woods on East College Avenue. If we had not stopped that, there would be a trucking company there right now. Wetlands. You probably don't remember John Abendschein, the mayor. I didn't vote for Honadel. Business. I've never voted for any of the Oak Creek mayors since then because you're all business. Mankind is our business. We have wetlands. We have an environment dying all around us. Carbon sequestration is what plants and animals do, not concrete and metal buildings. This Ahmad, this 11-year-old kid, could he have been like Rascal Sterling North in Racine County, who grew up raising a raccoon, riding that raccoon on his little bicycle? There's no 500-year-old trees on Pleasant Prairie anymore. Now there's a parking lot there, and there's nothing in the parking lot. It's an empty space.
Sir, I appreciate it, and we're all very mournful for the situation.
I'm
that happened
talking about the
yesterday's storm,
environment.
But
I'm
please,
talking about the environment
Stick-
on 143 West College Avenue,
okay,
which is farmland.
please.
You remember the Esch family? It was a family farm.
We
Where you're
understand.
talking about building, that was a family farm,
We
the
understand.
Esch family.
Okay.
You don't remember them.
We understand the history of Oak Creek. Please stick to the pertinent agenda.
That is the pertinent agenda.
You have, you
Business
have 3
is,
minutes.
mankind is our business, not corporations. Now, Oak Creek and Milwaukee have a reason to have a buffer zone, a green space for animals and plants and human beings to exist. We don't need to have business all the way from the airport, all the way south to Racine. We can start by thinking about what is a zone for light industry and business. What is a park? Mayor Abendschein had Oak Creek. Is there an Oak Creek? Is there any oaks in Oak Creek anymore? Is there a creek in Oak Creek? Or is it just a name? That man from Chicago or Illinois, he spent too much time in Illinois. I've grown up on College Avenue my whole life. And I don't want to see anything like a business at all. Leave the land alone.
Thank you. Okay, we will now go to the commission. Christine, would you like to start?
Yes, as others have said, I have a lot of concern. Let me start with the entrance of that business off of Howell Avenue, which is Highway 38. I have major concern from the safety perspective, along with DOT regulation and guidelines. So, traffic impact analysis or a TIA has not been done for this project from what I heard. Also, traffic operation analysis, not just traffic impact analysis, were not done for this project from what I see here today. Traffic impact analysis is just for the impact of the additional traffic generating by this business. And traffic operation means what's the operation impact on the signals, north and south of this project, and other turning movements within those medians. The applicant has mentioned that the outside shoulders are meant for the future development and usage by DOT. That is correct. However, it cannot be only used by businesses. It's more so for the entire public usage, not just one business. Let's talk about truck turning left. I'm not going to speak on the enforcement department, but they cannot have a sheriff or a police officer standing there all 24 hours to observe who's following the laws or not. So I don't agree that this is an enforcement issue. The truck turning left, let's assume the trucking are turning left. The median is open. However, this median was not built for truck turning movement. So the refugee for this truck turning is going to be encroaching on the travel lane. And this is not a low speed, even though it's less than 40 miles per hour or 40, I believe it's 40 miles per hour. This is not a low speed highway. So therefore, it's a big safety concern. So I'm not sure, like you said, your engineers looked at this. From what I see, I don't think it was closely looked at. Because it's two-stage crossing, it's not one stage. I'm not going to offer solutions here, but that's a major safety and operation concern, not just at this location, because there is a side effect. So you're going to be impacting the traffic signal to the north and the traffic signal to the south. So this has to be considered and coordinated with the state operation or traffic engineer. And we need to see his concurrence. I have not yet to hear any concurrence from them. Now talking about I have a note here that you said that you took a data from WisDOT website that it has 19,000 traffic per day. These are general usage for the public. However, traffic count and traffic forecast needs to be done for this segment to ensure that this is abiding by the DOT guidelines. And this is what the traffic operation engineer will be requesting. So we have, I shouldn't say we, but DOT have a traffic forecast engineer who will be able to provide you that. So, talking about traffic and that, when you say that you have different soil, I'm not sure what type of soil is contaminated or not. But I'm not sure, that's why I'm asking if it's contaminated soil or not, or healthy soil that, okay, so you don't have that. We need to see the DNR concurrence. I'm not sure if you're working with Christina Betzola, who are you working with? So, but we need to see the DNR coordinator telling you, yes, it's okay. So that's that. Just look at my notes here, just a second. I'm sorry?
You have to be on the mic, sir. You can't speak from the back row.
If you like, you can, yes. It's up to you if you want to come forward and answer or comment. It's up to you. Okay, and yes, one last comment. Actually, two. One of them have used, especially going to be generating a lot of vehicles, either trucking or your employees coming in and out. So what is the impact of those vehicles on the current residential neighborhood? Because we need to make sure that they don't circulate certain local roads, okay, and may cause safety concern for crossing pedestrian or vehicle, children playing in the front yard that is not built for that type of movement. Okay, so this is another safety concern. We have to have documentation and analysis providing that. One more, when you say you have trucking coming off the 94, those ramps are being developed and studied for a certain number. So you have to coordinate with the state freeway group to make sure that the entrance and exit for those ramps are abiding by DOT requirements. So this is another one that you need to look into. This far from all what I have seen, you have not provided any of this.
Yeah, so if I may, everything you just mentioned there would be encompassed in a traffic impact assessment. What I mentioned earlier on, the reason why we do not have one at this stage, they are very costly. We've done preliminary discussions with WSDOT and with traffic engineers. That's how I got my numbers. It wasn't from the website. It was just from being able to contact them and get the baseline data that way.
May I ask, who have you talked to at WSDOT?
Jordan?
Okay.
I'm happy
So
to get
you
that
need
to
to
you.
be talking to Art Bauman. Art Bauman, he's a state traffic engineer for the region.
Yeah, totally understand. And again, that's something that we plan on doing. We just
Okay.
want to get some comfortability with direction about where the commission is leaning before we make that significant investment for that next stage. I do want to highlight that median curb cut is not a traditional median curb cut. It's designed to have cars go like this. So it's not designed for like complete movement through the median itself. It's, if you look at it, it's kind of offset, right? So it's designed to have cars turn left across it, and then cars make that move as well, not necessarily to come out from a boulevard entry like we would have. So we could align that exit so that it really forces cars to make a right out of the site, because the median itself would physically block it. There's also potential in working with WSDOT, and again, it is a WSDOT road, to rework that median in a way that is more conducive to our project itself and address your safety concerns that way.
So you're right. However, again, the median is being designated to kind of have direction where the turning movement in. It's not just an open median, but I'm not sure if I've seen a turning movement showing trucking making that turn and it's not encroaching on the curb and gutter.
For sure.
Destroying it with multiple turns.
For sure. The one thing, and I haven't seen that as well, but I have seen how long the lane is, the deceleration lane is to turn, at least left. It is very long, much longer than a traditional car median and turning would be. And I know that that's somewhat speculative, and I know a traffic assessment would speak to that. But based on empirical analysis, and we've worked in industrial parks across the Midwest, when you see something that long, that means that whoever traffic body was planning for some heavier movement through that area. That's just an indicator to us. And again, why we flagged this site as pretty valuable and really well suited for this type of development.
One last question. Have the airport shown any interest for that type of business you are providing since you mentioned the airport?
Yep. So there is a master plan the airport has come up with. It's online. Anyone can look at it. It talks about the expansion of the cargo capabilities. There are no available rooftops and available space, warehouse space to take any expansion of their cargo. So there needs to be more warehousing capabilities to receive that type of cargo. We do have a good working relationship with the airport. I'm happy to get something from them in writing that would attest to that. That would not be an issue.
So you're saying that you will coordinate with them to make sure that they need your business?
I thought that's what you were asking me. I'm sorry.
I'm asking is, have the airports, was one way or the other, expressed the need of the type of business you're offering?
Both directly and indirectly, yes. We have talked with them about a variety of things. They have expressed interest in this, and also based on their master plan, the only way for that to work is for projects like us and developers like myself to come and find ways to increase the industrial base of the area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Engineering does not have any further concerns other than what Carrie has already addressed in her report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the development, I mean, normally I'd be somewhat supportive of a landowner wanting to develop their land. You purchasing it, I don't know the circumstances, but you looking to create this and build something. I mean, I'd love to obviously keep all green space around, leave the wetlands undisturbed, things like that. However, with that being said, it seems like staff has still a lot of concerns that need to be worked through. I mean, she brought up a lot of good points. Other commissioners have already brought up a lot of good points. So I think it's something that may potentially be able to move forward. But I think there's also a lot of work that needs to be done with staff to address all the concerns about traffic, about the wells, about the wetlands, things like that.
Totally understood and agree. The one thing I want to mention about the stormwater itself, we will be doing a full analysis on that. This is preliminary. That said, from a drainage perspective, on the Holmes Long College site, based on how we're engineering it, will alleviate those. It will alleviate the concerns, any flooding or damage. I know someone forgot who mentioned that the water is pooling into college itself. With us reworking the entire site, and again, it's not. When people say green space, it's not green space back there. It is very overgrown and tough to get through in general. No one is utilizing it right now, or not many people, for any of the wildlife in general. There's no real trails back there or anything like that.
Yes, there's trails.
Okay.
All right. We're going to keep moving along here. We're not going to debate whether this is suitable for deer and animals. That's not the point. Chris?
I'm on the side of staff here. It seems like there are way too many questions to be answered, and right now I'm not sure where I fall on this.
One thing I hopefully could add is that our hope would be at this stage, to have conditions for approval that we would be able to work through. That would provide the guidance necessary.
We're not going to make those conditions up on the fly here tonight.
And that's fine. And that's fine.
So just bear with us. Fred?
I have questions about the DNR and the wetlands in the area, plus the potential wells that are the wells that are there that could get contaminated in the city. So I'm a little concerned about the land. Plus, I'm also concerned about the concerns that the planning department has with this at the present time. I think before you can proceed, we need to make sure that we have all the questions answered that our planning department has. So they kind of promote us of telling what they would like to see, and we support that. And if they're not totally supporting on this project yet, I think we need to go back to the drawing board to make sure those questions are answered so we can proceed with this project.
Yeah, and the hope would be that hopefully the presentation day alleviated some concerns and addressed them. I'm open to having a sit down with the staff to go through item by item to work through this. Again, a lot of the stuff is I cannot give a definitive answer until we pour, $50,000 to $75,000 back into this to figure that out. it puts me in a bit of an awkward spot, as you can tell, coming up with those funds with not knowing where this is going to land.
I understand your concern, but we also have concerns for the
100%.
city and the city itself of how we're getting our plans organized and put together.
100%.
Okay, Jocelyn?
I do have a couple questions specifically to the residents' comments or inquiries. So could you provide more information or feedback to the residents as well as the Plan Commission in regards to the noise suppression, water runoff, water well contamination, et cetera?
As far as the water well contamination, I can't totally speak to that right now. I do know that we'll be using bioswales and things of that nature that have natural filtration abilities. Correct, Gordon? So the correct assessment. I'm not an engineer, so bear with me there. We will do a deeper dive into the actual stormwater once we, go forward. Again, it's a very costly endeavor. Now, we would not be doing something like this if we have not done it in the past, right? And did not know it was possible to do in the future in a safe and productive manner, both for us and also the public themselves. With regards to noise, obviously our project will create more noise, right, than a vacant piece of land, right? There's no debate there. Any development on this land will create more noise than the vacant piece of land that is there right now. Now, what we can do, right, is offer a solution that does improve the land itself. And we work as our best capabilities of minimizing any negative externalities to the site. Now, we do that through berming. And I know a gentleman said that does not work. We can talk with sound engineers and we can prove that out. We've done this on various other projects. Berms do work. They essentially swallow up noise. The best way actually to reduce noise emissions from a site is to build up land berms. The taller they are, the wider they are, the more they actually suck up that noise itself. The orientation of the project as well, that added distance, yes, truck docks are loud, right? But this orientation, that noise will be going south, right? And into that grade change to the south will be eaten by the land by and large degree. To the north, you have the whole building that blocks it. That's all office frontage on the north end. And you have a 300-foot plus buffer of land and then also a berm. I'm not concerned of any noise pollution or a material amount leaking towards the north, more so than already is generated through the various other trucking operations and the airport as well. We're minimizing as much as possible. This area itself is highly industrialized already. There's mention of the UPS and other facilities, terminal facilities like that. That's a way more intensive use than what we're proposing here today. This is going to be a warehouse type use. It is not a terminal operation. It is purely for a warehousing type tenant to come in, take some of the space, be able to store and distribute some of their goods. This is not a truck terminal.
I'll see you still have the floor.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're asking for. So because you've identified certain funds haven't been spent, because you're looking for direction on kind of where to go from here. Mm-hmm. So is your idea or plan today just to get feedback versus actually getting a conditional use permit and possibly get further detail or follow up on the details you received from planning, as well as meet with the residents so you can get feedback from them as well and then design this accordingly?
Obviously, it'd be great to have conditional approval. I'm not expecting that at this point, given the feedback of both the public and yourselves. What I would like, it would be great if we had an actual concrete path forward, that if we do X, Y, and Z, we satisfy X, Y, and Z concerns in a reasonable manner, that there is a clear path to getting approval. That's something that I would very much enjoy. I'm happy to speak with everyone here and address their concerns individually. Again, there's certain things that come with any type of development. There will be increased traffic regardless of the development. There will be noise as well. What I can promise and what we can do is try to minimize that externality as much as possible. I'm happy to work with them and generate that feedback and try to find some type of compromise middle ground. Because again, this type of parcel, if the community wants it to be developed, this is the highest and best use It really is, and really the only thing that's feasible back there with those grade changes in wetlands. We're trying to preserve as much as possible. Again, trying to keep only impacting up to an acre. That's our goal. Actually keeping it under an acre per DNR requirements. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
So with the feedback you've received, is that clear? Because you're saying you're looking for a clear path moving forward. So are you looking for some additional information besides what was given to you by planning as well as the residents? Or do you have additional questions I should ask?
I personally don't have any additional questions. If there was a formal path that this commission does, that'd be great. Again, I've heard everyone's comments and concerns. Obviously can't communicate directly with every resident, but I'm happy to answer questions. My email is on the slide itself, so everyone has that. I'm happy to respond as promptly as I can. What I don't want to happen is we go through this process again, I address concerns, and then the same type of concerns, even though after I address them, might still persist, which we have seen in other communities as well. We only build where we think there's a need. We think there's a need and a mutually beneficial kind of arrangement with the community. We don't want to go where we're going to cause a severe negative impact. That's not our goal at all. So that'd be my thought there, is that, again, we want a path forward to actually get something approved.
That it, Charles? Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll ask you to yield the podium. I'd like my assistant chief up.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'd like to just express a sentiment from staff as well. We do have some concerns. It's been a long day yesterday with our access to the site. So there's some things that have been give some information that we may have some turntable access, but we want to vet that and make sure that's appropriate. That's one of the significant concerns of what the size and scope of this project is that we are able to access it. And some of the restrictions, we've seen some renderings with some overhead barriers. We want to make sure that we're able to get through and access the areas we need to get to for emergency and firefighting purposes.
Thank you, Mike. Also, just size and scope of the building, there's one entrance. Is that problematic for you and your equipment? I mean, on what's proposed here?
So typically, if the size of the building is, if it's a sprinkled building, per code, it requires at least 450 feet before a turnaround is needed for emergency access. So as long as that turnaround is provided, that will resolve what our issues are. However, the more access is beneficial. That being said, we apply what the current code would be, and it would be, like I said, that distance of 450 feet or greater. We would require the necessary turnaround areas in both the north and south lots, or circular around the building.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, I'll go on with my concerns, and the commissioners had very valid points, and I appreciate all the input from the residents and the applicant as well. Just from the public, some of the questions, Gene had, questions about the runoff, and again, these are valid questions with no answers currently right now. Just absolutely none. So for me to make that decision and that call to put a conditional use on this makes no sense, as well as the traffic analysis, which we've kind of beat up there already on that one. And then what happens, in the residential neighborhood, the children's, the pets, the semi-parking, the whole thing. This is speculative. We don't know what business is going in here. It could well turn out to be a truck terminal with 66 loading docks in there. I've learned this over the years in Oak Creek, and I'm not saying they're not valid in their attempts to relegate the noise and everything that's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know. If this turns into another FedEx, you're going to have trucks like crazy. They attested that there'll be 560 vehicles going through there. This could be a 24/7 facility, resulting in 23 vehicles, cars or trucks going through per hour. Break that down, that's almost 2.5 per minute. So, way too much unknowns for that. DOT hasn't been consulted. This is geared to be a business park. That's our vision in the city of Oak Creek. Business park to me is more than one building. It's multiple buildings going in. We understand that if they put two in, there'd actually be more square footage, but it may actually be less impactful. The types of businesses that would take those. When we put something in like this, we want to put it into an area where it doesn't have great impact. And we've put in some large buildings like this. You're all aware of that in Oak Creek, and we've had great traffic impacts with it, which I receive calls on all the time because we can't control the trucks. We can't ticket them, and we don't have enough enforcement to do it, nor does it become our enforcement. One other point I want to make, it's been noted that the airport needs this stuff. It's not Oak Creek's responsibility to provide for the airport. There's 3 surrounding communities in Milwaukee, South Milwaukee, and Cudahy for opportunity for that too. What Oak Creek's responsibility is to its residents to put in the highest quality value thing that can exist within the residents. So, a couple other points I just want to make. Let's talk about the adjacent properties, because that's why most of you are here. The adjacent properties kind of ring this along College Avenue and Howell. These are residents. It may not be a traditional neighborhood, as some of us live in a subdivision, but they are residential homes. This really has no realistic opportunity to be ever absorbed into a business park if we start off on this foot. Now, if we choose to look at it and say, okay, maybe this will be rezoned over time and piece by piece absorbed into a master plan with a PUD, maybe it could be accomplished over time. But right now, I just don't see any realistic opportunity for the neighbors that ring that around there. I talked about it being a speculative building. We have no way to know if it'll be compliance within our comprehensive plan, what goes in there. There's a broad definition of what goes in there. We've talked about lack of comments from the DOT, the traffic impact analysis, and of course, the enforcement. A very interesting point, and I applaud the resident for bringing it forward. I have all faith in my staff that they have this information too with the wells, but that'll be of great concern and discussion going forward as well, because the last thing we want to do is endanger anybody that's still on well. Although, if you ever convert over, we do have the award-winning water here in Oak Creek, so keep that in mind. The stormwater, the slopes, it's a challenging site there, the topography of that. And again, we realize it is overgrown and it kind of is what it is, but if it has to stay that way for the time being until it becomes what it needs to be appropriately, that's the way it's going to be. Some of the conceptual plans, and with all honesty, I've seen a couple innovations of this as that came across, and they met with me, but they increased the size of the building, and I believe this is since June 2nd. Parking stalls have increased, number of stalls, the ponds have changed, the connection point, and I really have a problem with this single connection point. With them 560 cars coming in, and again, think about it, if it ain't 24/7, we're going to compact them 560 into a 12-hour day. That really sends multiplier up. The connection point to the north on potential parcels. I know they show the road going there, but is it realistic? I don't know the topography of that. I don't know what's sitting over there. How would you expand? Where would the setbacks sit? So I don't think we're properly laid out, and I didn't even touch wetlands yet. But we've kind of hit all that stuff. So, I think, going forward, we try to do our due diligence to get things correct that we do. And we've put in business parks, Oakview Business Park being our newest one, and the one at Amazon that's still in its infancy and with just one large building. And we're seeing the impacts of those. There's both positive things that come from that and non-positive things. And we get the tax base. And the gentleman that came up, wish he was kind of here to hear this. It really isn't all about the money. You know, don't get us wrong, you know, we're looking out, we're responsible for the taxpayers' money. But we also want to do the right thing that fits within the neighborhood. We are pro-business here. Make no doubt about that. I have a thing, we never start at no, we run it out and we see where we go. Can wind up at no, or we can wind up in a compromise. But right now, I cannot support this, and I will not support this in my vote going forward here because there's just too many holes in it. So at this time, I'll ask the commission, any last comments? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
So Carrie, if I want to make the motion in negative, how?
No, just make the motion and then
okay.
you vote the way you want, either
Okay.
affirmative or in the negative.
Okay. Hannah moved, the staff does not, Hannah moved the plan commission recommends that the common council approves a conditional use permit for a warehouse distribution facility in excess of 200,000 square feet on the properties at 6365, 6349, 6377, and 6475 south of Howell Avenue after a public hearing and subject to condition and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission's review at the next meeting, June 28, 2022.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, I'll begin. No.
Guzekowski, no.
Seifert, no.
Chandler, no. Hannah, no.
Chinsky, no.
Clark, no.
We'll move on to other considerations and, thank you. You're welcome. We'll move on from there. Next on the agenda, we have, a rezone conditional use, a review, submitted by, Prestige Motors to rezone the property at 150 West Ryan Road from B4 Business with a conditional use permit for vehicle sales on the property at 150 West Ryan Road. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This may be familiar to plan commissioners. This was submitted for a consultation at the January 11th meeting, and the applicant is back to request a rezone and conditional use for this property. The current zoning is B3. This is the former Educators Credit Union facility. And what they are requesting is B4 highway business with a conditional use permit for vehicle sales. They do wholesale and online. There are no changes to the existing floodplain boundaries. There are no changes proposed to the existing wetlands on the property. One moment, please. My apologies, and thank you for your patience. We are here today to discuss the proposal for a conditional use permit for the online wholesale auto dealership for this particular property. It does involve a redevelopment of this property. As I mentioned, it is the former site of the Educators Credit Union. So there are some site modifications that have been proposed. Some of the operational considerations first. Deliveries have been proposed to be approximately one per week, although no times for these particular deliveries have been submitted, and that is something that we'll talk about again. They're anticipating a maximum of 4 employees on site. What we understand from those operational needs is that the employees would be providing just basic services for customers and some financial guidance there. This is not as far as we are aware, this is not an opportunity for your traditional dealership sales to occur, as the transactions would occur online. However, they do have hours of operation that they propose to be between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday by appointment. Some of the things that were mentioned in the previous Plan Commission report for the consultation. The sign currently does not meet setback requirements in the present location, partially due to the fact that Ryan Road was reconstructed and some additional right-of-way was acquired, and therefore the setback was no longer met. They have been proposing a new location for that sign. We don't have specific details other than they're proposing it to be 10 feet off the property line. Landscaping has been added along the east side of the property. We did mention that in the staff report previously, that there would have to be a requirement that would likely result in the loss of the parking stalls along the east side. We will discuss the landscaping in a little bit more detail as well. And they are proposing to remove that drive-through canopy. Some of the concerns that were raised in the previous staff report remain. Locational and site concerns, we still are not entirely on board with an auto dealership on this particular property at this time. Given the existing configuration of the lot, we do have some requirements for setbacks to be met that are not currently met. There are locational considerations in terms of the surrounding area, and just the lack of information regarding this particular use. Asphalt is still shown to the property line. That does not meet setback requirements. In a redevelopment situation, we would be requesting additional landscaping to be installed to remove that asphalt. It serves no purpose. It's left over from a secondary access that was removed as part of that Ryan Road reconstruction project. So it's one of those opportunities that we would request a compliance for the redevelopment of the property. One of the things that another department had mentioned was that there weren't any turning movements provided to show whether or not there is adequate access around and through the site. And the reason that's important is because with the delivery of vehicles to the site, and again, we don't have details for this, we don't know whether or not there's going to be a direct impact to Ryan Road. We also don't have WISDOT comments for this particular proposal, likely because it doesn't necessarily include a change to the existing access. However, because this would require deliveries to the site of vehicles, we would like to have WISDOT provide some comments. The turning movements would allow us to determine whether or not a truck delivering a vehicle, for instance, could actually get onto the site without blocking traffic on Ryan Road. So that's just one consideration. With the sign being relocated, we do appreciate that. It does look like it would meet setback requirements. However, we don't have any further details. We would require landscaping around that monument sign, and that has to meet code requirements. The sign could not be out of compliance in terms of the size allowance, et cetera. And while that's not a requirement for a conditional use permit at this time, it's something that we just want to make the applicant aware of should this move forward. Going on for the landscaping, we do have a preliminary landscape plan showing the east side that would have a buffer in it, but we do have requirements for that buffer. It has to be a certain width. It has to incorporate a certain landscaping element per the code, and those particular items would have to come during site and building plan review. But the concern is whether or not that what they're showing is a reservation that would be sufficient for code. Not something that's insurmountable, but it is still a concern. And again, with details for the operation of the site itself, we do not have any specifics or any estimations for how, when, and how many deliveries to the site for vehicles themselves. They did say that they were anticipating about one a week, but how many vehicles is that at a time? When do those deliveries occur? Is it during the hours of operation? Is this an after hours thing? Again, how many at a time? And is this going to be a storage situation? Are they going to be stored on site for a specific amount of time? Is this a situation where they only get deliveries to the site and they have a scheduled pickup within a couple of days, a couple of hours? We don't have any details for that. And the reason that's important is because if we're going to be recommending a conditional use permit, there would be limitations for outdoor storage. We also don't have any information on lighting. We have a location for the trash enclosure that's proposed, but we don't have any details for that. Again, not insurmountable, things that would be brought up at a site plan review, but we are bringing this up for the applicant to understand that we do need this information at a later date should this move forward. We previously heard that there would not be any repairs or detailing done on the site, save for maybe vacuuming the vehicles. But we do need to make sure that that is not something that is being proposed, because again, that's a consideration for this conditional use permit. So the impacts to the site, again, we are not comfortable recommending approval at this point due to these outstanding concerns, particularly for the traffic and the site movement. The other items are really kind of consideration for the neighborhood itself. And then the rest of the items would really be something that would be addressed during site plan review. So while we do not support approval of the request, we do have a suggested motion should the Plan Commission determine that they would like to move this forward. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we go to the commission, applicant, would you like to wait for questions or would you like to come up, sir? Anybody? Okay, we'll go right to the commission. Chauncey, you want to start us out?
Sure, I do have a question for the applicant.
Anyone online?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if you can ask a question and Carrie can try to take care of it as best she can.
Okay, well, my question was their feedback on all of Carrie's concerns or planning's concerns. Have they provided any feedback?
I have not received any correspondence from the applicant since the staff report was written.
Okay, thank you.
Ed?
Yeah, does the applicant own the property now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think, it's just gonna be too tacky. I just don't think, when I think of used car, and I mean, when I look at, there's some other ones along 27th Street that just, it just doesn't, it's not the image of Oak Creek that I would like to present, so I wouldn't support it.
Okay.
I think during the January 11th meeting, if I read that right, I said I could support something like this. It seemed like people ordering cars online and this was only the pickup location. But to the staff's concerns, how are they being delivered? Are they coming on a semi vehicle delivery truck? Where are they gonna go? Because they can't unload on Ryan Road. And there's just a lot of unanswered questions. Again, we've had before where the applicant doesn't show up to answer them. So I will give them the benefit in case something happened, but I feel they can come back with more information.
Ashley?
No further questions from engineering, thank you.
I concur with others. I don't think that's a suitable location for this type of business, hence all the businesses surrounding it. So I would not support that, no.
Okay, thank you. I'll back staff on all our concerns going forward. There may be better locations for this, and to reiterate Chris, there's many different type of car lots. Some are, even if they're used cars, are done very well, and other ones, they pack them into the gills. Every single spot is taken and they're bumper to bumper, and you can't even move through the things because they're bringing them in so fast. But I do think it's a relative concern being on a state highway. Are they coming in on haulers, or what's happening with these things? So I'm with staff on this one. I think I don't support this one going forward right now. So if there's no further discussion, motion?
Seeker moves that the planning commission recommends to the common council that the property at 150 West Ryan Road be rezoned from B3 office and professional business to B4 highway business. No change to the floodway or the flood fringe district, with a conditional use permit for vehicle sales. After a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the planning commission's review at the next meeting, June 28th, 2022.
A question, Mayor. Since the applicant isn't here, similar to another item that we had last time, should we hold it and let them come? or vote on it? Okay,
Oh, I think if we can't get our answers, they can reapply and come back through if that's the case. Am I correct in that, Carrie?
It's up to the plan commission how you wish to proceed. You can place it on hold or you can vote.
Oh, we already have a motion on the floor. I'm waiting on a second, but the motion has been made, so we have to go with that. So the motion right now is that the plan commission recommend to the common council acceptance. So.
Hannah will second. Go for it. No,
Go ahead.
Hannah second.
Okay, so we have to finish our motion. So, roll call. Chris, would you begin, please?
Guzekowski, no.
Seifert, no.
Chandler, no.
Anna, no.
Shinsky, no.
Lorick, no.
Davich, no. Okay, that will get us to 9E, which is plan review site building landscapes and related plans for global schoolwear for a single tenant office and warehouse building at 200 West Oakview Parkway. The tenant has asked for a hold on this.
No, actually, I think there's a bit of miscommunication there, but I do support this being held, and let me explain why. The staff report has recommended that this be held for a couple of reasons. But to add to those reasons, this afternoon we received an email from West Park requesting that if we recommend approval, that there be a condition that the association that manages the park, that everybody needs to be part of, that they have an opportunity to review and issue their requirements for the plans. Apparently that didn't occur prior to this meeting. And there is some indication that there would be changes required. So that gives staff even more pause with moving this forward. The other portion of that is that we received comments from DNR on June 8th regarding this proposal. And I'll just kind of briefly go over the fact that it's typical when we get a development that has potential impacts to wetlands, and we mentioned this earlier tonight, that we receive some kind of indication from DNR about what their path forward is going to be. Are they going to be recommending approval? Are we confident that they're going to be issuing some kind of fill permit? Do we know what the concerns are? You know, even if it's not a complete fill, but a partial fill, we do have some level of confidence that something is going to be coming down from DNR that will support the project moving forward. What we received from the DNR is the exact opposite. And it's unfortunate that it was received at such a late hour, but that being said, it's a very important piece of this project moving forward because of the requirements for the development. We only present a condition for DNR permits to be submitted when we have that level of confidence that they're going to be approved in some regard. And it's in a way that wouldn't wholly affect the approval of the plans moving forward as well. DNR has provided comments to suggest that they will either not approve or require significant changes to the plan before they approve. And without knowing exactly what that decision is, it directly affects your review of this proposal. You could recommend approval of the plans as presented, and then the DNR comes back in with a completely different review that would require significant changes. So it would either be we have conflicting approvals, or they would have to come back at such time that those comments can be incorporated into the plan. It would be brand new before you. It would be, in staff's opinion, less confusing, and it would be a lot more straightforward if we had those comments before we proceed. That being said, we can review the plans that have been presented to the Plan Commission this evening for your consideration. The Plan Commission does have the authority to recommend approval, subject to conditions, or you can place this on hold. If you would like me to give an overview of the project, I am happy to do so, but I would like the Plan Commission's feedback on that.
Just to put the project on hold.
I would too, till we get the appropriate information. And again, this one differs greatly than the last one because that was a use.
I have two questions though.
Yes.
So I was reading on page 3 of 6, that top paragraph there saying that the DNR has provided already comments. So I heard also you said that they have some changes that they want to further evaluate before they provide their responses. So does this mean that they are not going to unless they see those revisions, or what does this mean?
That was included in your packet as the email correspondence, and it's from Ryan Pappas of DNR. And it was to Rupesh and Liz at JSD. And again, we have never seen, at least I have never seen in my 9 years with the city, this type of response from DNR on a proposal. Taken aback a bit. And again, we were already into writing the report when we received these comments, but when we read these comments, it's pretty clear to us that DNR is not going to issue any comments until they're satisfied with the information they've received and they've given specifics about what it is they're looking for. We don't have any level of comfort one way or another what their decision is going to be. So, that's why staff is recommending that this be placed on hold.
About the Army Corps?
We don't have any correspondence from them yet.
We have to yet to wait for them, correct?
They have jurisdiction, we don't know. We don't know whether or not they're going to claim federal jurisdiction over the wetlands. We suspect that since they were copied by the DNR specifically, that they will have some comments.
Sure. Very quickly, the applicant's indicating. Would you like to speak, sir? You got to come up to the podium, name and address, please.
Thank you. Rizal Iskandarsa, JSD Professional Services. I am the site civil engineer and I've been involved with the Oakview Business Park since the beginning in 2013. Yeah, that was when it was finished. So fairly familiar with the site and all the development on site. So we did make an application with the DNR for a general permit fill of less than 10,000. And we received, as Carrie mentioned earlier this month, their comments for additional information. It is just in the background, in my experience in requesting wetland fill with the DNR, they have 60 days to either approve, deny it, or request for additional information. And sometimes, and I spoke with Ryan Pappas, the reviewer, sometimes they're so busy that at the last minute on that 60th day, they'll request for additional information so that we have 30 days to respond to those additional information, and then they also have 30 days to fully review it. So that's just a background.
To get some extra time.
So yeah, so we have like, I think 8 bullet points that they request additional information as part of the packet. We could go through them item by item, but most of them, they're looking for a less impact on the wetland fill. And a couple of them, so then something that we'll need to work with staff is this side is a PUD. As you know, it's a plan unit development back in 2013. It follows that ordinance in 2013 with 0 wetland setback. The new ordinance, the March of this year's ordinance has a 15-foot no buffer, I think it's the term, and then a 15-foot setback. So, one of the items Ryan mentioned is they much rather have us not fill those wetland than try to follow the current 15-foot setback. So they much rather have us have minimal impact on the wetland instead of filling it just to meet a setback. Because I think if in the layout, there's some fill that we request to the wetland to meet the 15-foot setback. So basically we're we're moving the wetland by filling it and then meet the setback. But they much rather have us not move that wetland and not fill it. That makes sense. So those are some of the items we have. Again, we have 30 days since that, from that June 6th or June 8th date to reply. And as far as Carrie mentioned, how they feel about it, they won't, I mean, I can tell you, but it's not on paper. We're positive about it. Let's just say that, but they're not going to show their cards how they feel about it on paper. So that's, and I'll be happy to answer any question.
So the pertinent thing in the end is to hold and bring it back when those questions are answered.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Sir?
Can I add one more thing? Yeah, so I just one more thing. So I've been like I said, I've been involved with the whole business park. We had the same situation with Arena, where we fill a wetland there. And again, at that time, the decision wasn't finalized at that time, and it became like a condition of the approval of that specific site plan for the Arena development. Just,
thank you. Thank you. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Greg Prosson. I am with the Consortium AE. We're the design professional on the project, 893 Golden View Court, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. There is a commitment outstanding right now to deliver precast to this site in approximately mid-September, September 16th, I believe. And with the recommendation for hold, I guess our question to Carrie and to the Plan Commission is, do you think we can meet, let's take the DNR issues off the table. Do you think we can meet that with the current hold scenario in trying to get back into the Plan Commission calendar quickly?
It's as quick as you can get responses and plan changes as necessary from the DNR. I mean,
like I said, just take the DNR off of that for a second. There's some aesthetic issues, I think, regarding the exterior of the building that you've raised. If we can address those, say in the next week, could we make the next Plan Commission cycle?
the hold is going to be more for the DNR's response though.
Understand.
So once you get the response from DNR, we can work through the other issues that staff have raised with regards to, the building materials or the design of the building. Those are things we can work through.
Okay.
But the DNR is really going to be the key of it. So the sooner you get that response and the sooner we come to a conclusion on that, we can get you on the next Plan Commission meeting following that.
Great. Thank you.
Congratulations on getting precast. Okay, we are on E.
Hold it.
Yep, you need to make a motion to hold.
A motion to hold. So, anybody like to go? Yeah.
Guzekowski will make a motion to hold, item 9E until,
Don't have to say until, just hold item 9E.
as stated, hold 9E.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call, and Fred, would you begin?
Seifert, aye.
Camber, aye. Anna, aye.
Shinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye. David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Item F, plan review site building landscape and related plans for Revell Investments for revisions to the clubhouse on the site at 441 West Ryan Road. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Plan commissioners may recall that there was approval for a 4-building multifamily residential development on this property. And as part of the conditional use permit, there was a requirement for the clubhouse building to be a maximum of 17 feet in height in order to meet code requirements. And this revision is coming back to you because in meeting that height restriction, there was a little bit of a change to the architecture for the building, and there were a couple of changes to the site plan as well. So this looks pretty familiar. The differences in the site plan that we're talking about, there were this playground feature and a water feature that were originally south of the clubhouse, and that's been moved north to be right across from the two northern buildings. No real concerns with that. It did have some impact to the parking area as well. Need to make sure that all parking areas still meet setback requirements per code. So I'm not sure if that's going to require any further changes to the plans, but we do still need to maintain those required setbacks. As far as the architecture of the clubhouse is concerned, pretty much mirrors the same materials that were proposed in the original design and for the other buildings. Staff have no concerns for it, meets the height restriction. So we have no concerns with moving forward with this particular approval. Again, we need to ensure that all of the relevant code requirements are still maintained, and we still need to adhere to the conditional use permit requirements. Same thing for the brick and stone. That's also part of the conditional use permit requirement. Same with the fire department requirement to review all of those outdoor grill areas. If they're going to incorporate propane or gas, those are things that they need to review as well. So that is a suggested motion on the screen for approval with all those considerations in mind. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Applicant want to say a few words, or is it pretty self-explanatory and we can go to commission? Go to commission if there's questions. Christine?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Ashley?
No questions, thank you.
Greg?
No questions, thank you.
Chris?
Nothing.
Fred?
No questions.
Chauncey?
No questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mark Drager, 320 West Trillium Terrace, near this development. I just want,
Just to the south, yep.
just to the south, yes. I just wanted to say thank you to the designer architects for incorporating some of the landscaping. I was looking through the drawings, the landscaping that I had asked for, they incorporated it. I think they did a great job, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Great. We appreciate the input on that. Thank you. I myself have no questions or concerns either, so motion, please.
Seifert moves that the plan commission approves the site building, landscaping, and related plans submitted by Steve Pepe Revale Industry Investments for the revision to the clubhouse site on the property at 441 West Ryan Road with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements and conditions of the conditional use permit remains in effect. 2, that the exterior brick and stone veneer meet the minimum of 4-inch thick requirement. 3, that all outdoor grill areas and proposed fire pits are reviewed and approved by the fire department prior to submission of permit applications. 4, that all mechanical equipment, transformers, and utility boxes, ground boxes, and rooftop shall be screened from view.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Chauncey.
Karen Blair, aye.
Anna, I.
Jinsky, aye.
Mark, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Okay, very well. Thank you for coming out and being so patient, Mark. Appreciate it. Last item, 9G, review site building plans related by Adam Castle, Aldi's Inc. for the site access, guardhouse, and parking lot modifications on the property in 9210, 9342, and 9440 South 13th Street. Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is part of a PUD that does affect all of the Aldi-owned properties. Just want to clarify that while we do have development that crosses property lines, it was anticipated as part of the PUD. So there was mention in the staff report that it's best to combine the properties by CSM, but because the development is already there, it's not a contingent requirement for this particular review and approval. So just want to clarify that. This is a proposal for new and upgraded accesses to that site. The new access point will be on the northern end off of 13th Street, and that's to access existing employee and visitor parking, and that will be expanded that parking area there. The access on the south that is currently existing, it's the only access really, at this point. The apron and the actual approach onto 13th Street are not changing. However, once you get onto the property and past that, they are expanding those truck lanes to 4 wide. And that is part of an overall redevelopment of the truck parking area down there as well. The existing guardhouse and restroom buildings will be demolished, combined into one, and moved farther east onto the property. The existing truck scale will also be removed, relocated to the south side of the existing employee and visitor parking that's southernmost on the property. That entry point that is currently there will be closed off, that median extended and landscaping expanded there, so that's pretty much where the scale is going to go. This is the proposal for the northern access. Again, this is on 13th Street, so that's controlled by Milwaukee County DOT, and all access approvals would have to be copied to the city as well. Not sure what they're going to say about turning left onto 13th Street, so that will be at their discretion, of course. The expanded parking area, staff have no concerns for it as proposed. The expansion is for roughly a net of, I think it's like 60 stalls thereabouts. And again, this is for employee and visitor parking, and the intention is to separate this traffic from the truck traffic, makes it a little bit safer. So staff really appreciates that. There is also going to be an expansion of the existing pond there. No concerns raised at this point. However, please work very closely with the engineering department to ensure that all stormwater requirements are met with that revision. So on the south side, this is what we're talking about with the expanded truck access to the site. This area here, where they are filling in some parking stalls, currently there is an access point here, if you can see my cursor. That will be closed off, this median extended, and these parking stalls infilled. And then the only remaining access to the south parking lot would be here, really not intended to be used as a primary access point. Again, we're going to be asking everybody to be using that new access point on 13th Street North. This is where the proposed truck scale is going to be relocated to. The intention here is for trucks to be exiting this site in this location, although the occasional passenger vehicle may escape out there as well. The location of the combined guardhouse and restroom facility, again, further into the site on the east. And then the parking for the trucks that is expanding on the east is located in an existing area, although they are expanding it further south, and that does require some modifications to the existing landscape berms. However, they have provided some plans that will include development of new landscape berms to ensure that that is still a buffered area. There might be some requirements that would be revisions required to those landscaping plans in order to comply with code requirements, to make sure that we are still meeting those slope requirements, and to ensure that we are maintaining the intent of those buffers, which is to provide some screening. We're not anticipating that there would be major modifications to those landscaping plans, but just enough to comply with code, and as I mentioned. These are the elevations for the guardhouse and restroom facility. Materials are going to be CMU in 2 different kinds. The windows are going to be, as far as I know, they're not spandrel, but there's no concerns with that either. This is the main entry for it, and it's going to be, the main entry is distinguished with the canopy. These are the entry, or my apologies, these are the north and south, no, I'm sorry, east and west elevations. Orientation is horizontal. And here is the other elevation, just again showing you where the entry doors are as opposed to those for the restrooms. Staff have no concerns with these proposed plans, and again, with the minor modifications as mentioned in the conditions of approval, there is a suggested motion for the Plan Commission's approval for consideration. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we go to the commission applicants, would you like to say anything or wait on questions? Appreciate your patience tonight. Okay, Johnston, you want to start us out?
No questions, thank you.
Oh, come on up, sir. I missed you back there.
Been here all night. Chuck Kaler, 901 West Ryan Road, directly across from this property. I have some questions as to how far south the existing truck parking lot is going. It's obviously coming closer to Ryan Road. And what type of buffer are we talking here? Because right now, when I look out my front window, you have trailers parked there with the doors opened. Quite frankly, it looks like hell. And now you're gonna put in 4 lanes of incoming truck traffic, pushing it closer to Ryan Road. I've got some concerns with that.
Carrie, can you scale anything there? Or
I am
guys,
bringing up.
can you help us out back there?
I'm bringing up the landscape plan.
You've got a retention pond there right now. How close to that existing retention pond are you coming with your new parking lot and trailers gonna be fronting Ryan Road now? Parked?
Name and address, sir.
Mark Seidel, Pinnacle Engineering Group, 20725 Watertown Road in Brookfield. Yes, we provided civil engineering services for the project and landscape plan services as well. So the new south parking field expands approximately 35, 40 feet south, using approximate numbers because there's some curvature to the roadway. So I'm going to just say 30 to 40 feet roughly. As for the screening, we're providing, or we're showing on our plans, berming that's equal to or higher than what is out there today. In addition, we're providing berming further west than what is out there today. So now you'll see berming that'll go along the new 4-lane entryway as well. We also show our landscape plan that has numerous evergreens, canopy trees, etc., to try to screen this the best possible way possible. You'll be more than happy to work with staff just to make sure that everything's up to snuff. That answer questions.
So this berm you're gonna build is gonna have some landscaping, i.e. evergreens, not arborvitae. And you have some nice trees on the property right now, close to Ryan Road. Same type of landscape plan going on, or what's happening?
I keep playing switcheroo with you here. Yes, so we did provide the landscape plan that does offer a couple different species of plants that are native to the area that are drought tolerant, right? I think we do call it evergreen trees with different types of canopy trees. So I do believe it's going to be very similar to what's out there, today. But then also, the street trees along 13th and Ryan, there's numerous of those right now today. And those aren't being touched. So you do have that additional level of protection closer to the roadway itself.
Other side of the detention pond.
To the south side, yeah.
I guess my only other concern is, are the 4 truck lanes of traffic needed? Obviously, you're expecting an awful lot of business, because when this building was built once upon a time, I was here, and we were told not going to be 7 days a week. And the owner of the property kind of gave a wink to his consultants when he left. Well, that changed drastically because it's running 7 days a week. So there's 4 lanes of truck traffic. What does that mean?
Carl Morse, A.M. King, 1610 East Moorhead, Charlotte, North Carolina, representing Aldi. The intent of the 4 lanes is primarily for the receiving operations to eliminate any traffic backup or blockage on 13th Street, and to maintain their security operations, to make sure all tractor trailers check in at the guardhouse beforehand. The driveway is approximately 550 feet long. Take a 75-foot tractor trailer that gets you to about 7 vehicles or tractor trailers in each lane of 28 to keep that off the road. That's a worst case scenario. That's basically accounting for some potential growth in their operations. They are looking to basically mitigate their current operations. If for any reason there's a backup, that's the partial reason for the additional trailer parking on the south side of the property, so that a guard could direct them into those first few stalls and prevent any further backup on 13th Street.
Thank you. Okay. Back to it, Chauncey,
Nothing else for me. Thank you.
Fred,
Questions for me?
Chris,
No questions for me.
Greg,
I have nothing additional. Thank you.
okay, Ashley,
Nothing further, thank you.
Christine?
Just one question, because I see with the new proposed access, it's just across from the Steinhafels entrances. They have two of them, so there is no conflict in them. I'm just looking at my Google map.
Yeah, great question. So we've engaged a traffic engineer to evaluate that intersection and work with DOT and the county. We did get results back. There's no additional improvements within 13th Street required. So we're very confident with what we have shown actually meets and exceeds what the recommendations are for that intersection. So I think this is a best case scenario for everybody.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Chief, anything? I don't mean to make you run up here, but if you have something great, I don't want to leave you out.
Again, Mike Avey with Fire. I'll make this quick. I think the flow of that, the traffic, will allow emergency vehicles to also access. We do get a secondary access as well, so it does benefit for emergency access as well.
Okay, thank you, Mike. No, actually, Chuck kind of brought up just a couple of questions that were kind of crossing my mind, so you guys took care of that, so I have no further questions. If nobody has anything else, motion please.
Clerk moves to approve site building and related plans submitted by Adam Castle Aldi Inc. for the properties at 9210, 9342, and 9440 South 13th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that copies of all Milwaukee County DOT access approvals and agreements shall be provided to the city prior to the submission of building permit applications. 3, that the landscape plans are revised to comply with all code requirements. 4, that all light sources are shielded and directed downward. That the color temperature of the fixtures are limited to a maximum of 5,000 kelvins. 5, that the plans are revised to include locations and screening for any new mechanical equipment, transformers, utilities, and trash enclosures if applicable. 6, that the landscape plans are revised for conformance with all code requirements. And 7, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski, a second. Roll call, beginning with Christine.
Anna, I.
Krasinski, aye.
Lorick, aye. Kavich, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Sleeper, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, and very quickly, just before we get to adjournment, want to thank staff, IT, Carrie, Assistant Chief Havey, and then, of course, everybody behind the scenes there that went on getting these reports together. It was an extensive one tonight, and I appreciate that, and also appreciate the work you guys do as usual. Just a couple things. It's hot. It's really heating up. Summer's here, but the splash pad is active. So if you have little ones, definitely take advantage of that. I said it at the beginning of the meeting, the library in conjunction with DPW and tourism set up a interactive flag tour here in Drexeltown Square. Please, when the weather's permittable, get out there and explore it and really find out the history of the flag. We're the only community in southeastern Wisconsin that's doing anything quite like this. And we're on TV 58. So if you want to Google that, they did a story on it as well. Farmers Market continues on. We're having great success there. And we have a pop-up beer garden starting right here in Drexeltown Square, June 16th through, I believe, Sunday. Okay, I'll go out on a limb and say it's going to Sunday. So if you have time, visit Drexeltown Square, do some shopping at the market, maybe do some dinner and stop in. There's going to be some music and refreshments. So with that, does anybody know how to adjourn? Dawn's not here.
Sleeper moves to adjourn the meeting at 8:55.
Anna seconds.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley. Lorick, aye. Kavich, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Sleeper, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Anna, I.
Thank you, everybody. Good